Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Shinigami, Millennium Captain. Chapter 41. A few days later, Basemon pushed open the door to the captain's room and respectfully reported inside, "Captain, Kuchiki Hibiki from the 6th Division is here to visit." Lin Yu was drinking with Saito and Shunsui. When he heard this, he looked up and said with a smile, "Oh. He can get out of bed in just a few days. This guy has a strong recovery ability. Let him come in quickly." At this time, Chun Shui came closer and heard Kuchiki Shanghai coming to visit Lin Yu. He couldn't help but curiously asked, "Why is this kid here? Is he because he didn't get beaten enough by you in the past few days? Get out of here. Go drink while you're there." After a while, Basemon led Hibiki to the captain's room. As soon as he entered the captain's room, Kuchiki Shanghai knelt on the ground without hesitation and said firmly, "Master, Shanghai is here to listen to your teachings." Ah, Ba Yunjai, Saito and Chunshui were all stunned, with blank expressions on their faces. They did not expect that Kuchiki Shanghai would suddenly kneel down and call Lin Yu master. The three of them looked at Lin Yu in unison, their eyes full of doubts and curiosity, wanting to know what was going on. Seeing this, Lin Yu hurriedly smiled and explained, "Hey, I made a fortune when Shanghai and I were competing. If he loses, he will become my teacher." Ha ha. Ba Yunjai couldn't help laughing, patting Lin Yu on the shoulder and jokingly said, "Lin Yu, I'm not telling you, you still want to be a master like this, you want to laugh me to death." Kuchiki Shanghai, who was kneeling on the ground, glanced at the captain's room of the 7th team, and then realized that the situation in the room was a little special. In addition to Lin Yu, there were 3 other people staying in the room. Among them were 2 women he didn't know, and the other one was Kyoraku Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division. What surprised Kuchiki Shanghai even more was that the female Shinigami wearing glasses was handling team affairs. According to common sense, if Lin Yu does not handle these matters, then Deputy Captain Xiaochun should be responsible. However, now it is the female Shinigami who is handling team affairs, which makes Kuchiki Shanghai feel confused. He secretly wondered, is this female Shinigami's status in the 7th team higher than that of Vice Captain Xiaochun? Or does she have a special relationship with Lin Yu? Kuchiki Shanghai decided to observe the situation first before taking any further steps. Judgment. Seeing Kuchiki Shanghai looking around like a curious baby, Lin Yu introduced a few people to him. "Shanghai, that Shinigami with the eye patch has a lot to do with your Kuchiki family." Shanghai tilted his head and thought, is it related to my Kuchiki family? Could it be that this female Shinigami is also a member of my Kuchiki family, but why have I never seen her before? "Lin Yu, please stop teasing him," Saito said carelessly. "Kid, I am Saito Immortal, the 1st captain of Division 6. Do you think your Kuchiki family has anything to do with me?" Shanghai suddenly realized, it turns out to be Captain Saito. "I'm sorry. I only know that Captain Saito is the 1st-generation captain of our 6th Division, but I have never met you." Lin Yu shouted to quit. "I said Shanghai, you didn't respect me so much when you saw me, why did you change when you saw Saito?" Suddenly Ba Yunjai stood up and clapped his hands on the desk. "Lin Yu, shut up. Saito is a veteran of the 6th Division. Shanghai should respect her." Lin Yu was frightened and trembled, feeling aggrieved like a 1,000-year-old baby. "Oh, I understand, Ba Yunjai, don't be angry." Puff. Lin Yu's funny look made Ba Yunjai couldn't help laughing. I'll take care of you later." Shanghai was startled by the sudden angry Ba Yunjai, and murmured to himself, who is this woman? Why is even the chief master so afraid of her? Shanghai quickly looked at Lin Yu and signaled him to explain with his eyes, but Lin Yu was curled up like a frightened quail at the moment, not daring to move at all, and completely turning a blind eye to the hints in his eyes. Seeing this, Ba Yunzai said, "Shanghai, don't be afraid, I am Shikatori Ba Yunzai, the 1st captain of the 8th Division." Hearing this sentence, Shanghai suddenly understood and quickly replied respectfully, "It turns out to be Captain Shikatori. I'm rude." Although he still had some doubts in his heart, Shanghai understood that the woman in front of him had an extraordinary status, perhaps even more powerful than Lin Yu. So, he decided to stay humble and polite to avoid annoying the other person. After all, even a cheap master like himself is afraid of someone, so he should not be underestimated. Ba Yunjai looked at the nervous Shanghai and realized that his expression might be too serious. He quickly adjusted his image and said with a gentle smile, "You don't have to be so outspoken. Just call me mistress." Hearing this, Shanghai was shocked. Lin Yu's careful and flattering look immediately appeared in his mind, and he couldn't help but think, is Captain Shikatori still cheap on Master's wife? This is too scary. It seems cheap. Master is still a strict wife. Lin Yu noticed that Shanghai looked at him more and more strangely, and he couldn't help but feel nervous. He knew that Shanghai must have misunderstood something, so he quickly sat up straight, cleared his throat, and said seriously, "Shanghai, since you are here to become a disciple, you still need to have a ceremony." When Shanghai heard this, he quickly came to his senses and stood respectfully in front of Lin Yu, preparing to perform the apprenticeship ceremony. Lin Yu smiled and nodded, indicating that Shanghai could start. Shanghai took a deep breath, solemnly made 3 big salutes to Lin Yu, and offered apprenticeship tea to express his respect and gratitude to his master. After drinking the tea from Kuchiki Hibiki, he said, "Hibiki, from today on, you are my disciple. I am also very lazy. Rules and stuff don't matter. But you have to remember that as Shinigami, you must shoulder your responsibilities and maintain justice and order in Soul Society. This is my only request from you." Shanghai rolled his eyes at Lin Yu when he heard this. "Rules don't matter, so why don't you ask me to be your master and bow down seriously?" However, he still solemnly replied, "Master, I understand." "Well, that's good. Shanghai, do you know why I want to accept you as my disciple?" "Master, please clarify. I think you have good talent and you are considered a genius. You have learned Bankai at such a young age. But it is precisely because of this that you have become very proud and even arrogant. You must know that there is heaven and earth, and no one dares to say that he is the best. Strong. In addition, your Zanpakuto Muramasa's ability can easily go to extremes. In order to prevent you from going astray, I decided to accept you in order to gain another top combat power in the Soul Society." Shanghai also understood this very well. "Actually, I don't need to tell you, Master, sometimes Muramasa does affect my character inadvertently. I wonder if Master has any solution." "It's simple. I will use my Zanpakuto to temporarily seal your Muramasa, and then sharpen your mind. When your mind is strong enough, it will not be difficult to suppress Muramasa." Shanghai had a look of distrust on his face. "Master, isn't your Zanpakuto of the thunder type? You said you used Kido to help me seal the Zanpakuto and I still believed you. Use the Zanpakuto to seal it. Are you lying to me?" Lin Yu was dumbfounded. "You brat, who told you that my Zanpakuto is of the thunder type?" Shanghai immediately retorted, "If it wasn't for the thunder element, how could he summon thunder to strike him?" Lin Yu suddenly responded, "You just saw the thunder, right? You forgot about my vision of liberation and the power of the stars. Sealing your Zanpakuto is a trivial matter to me. The power of the stars can be used. Come and seal it, do you understand?" Lin Yu didn't say anything. Shanghai really didn't know about this. "Oh, disciple understands, thank you Master for your teaching." Lin Yu pulled out his Zanpakuto and prepared to seal Muramasa of Kuchiki Shanghai. At this moment, Chun Shui climbed up from the ground, shouting, Hey, no, if you want to release the Zanpakuto in the captain's room, someone will die." Hearing this, Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, then looked at Chun Shui with a puzzled face and said, "Huh." Then, he stared at Chun Shui as if he were an idiot, with a hint of joking in his tone, "Who? The ability you mentioned to use the Zanpakuto requires freeing the Zanpakuto." Lin Yu's words stunned everyone in the captain's room. They all turned their heads and looked at Lin Yu with surprised eyes. Kuchiki Shanghai was even more stunned. Muramasa, who had been raised, stopped in midair. Ba Yunjai on the side also stopped writing the pen he was dealing with team affairs, while Shunshui and Saito put down their wine glasses and stopped drinking. After a moment of silence, Ba Yunjai finally couldn't help but break the silence. Her eyes widened and she said to Lin Yu in disbelief, "You are a pervert, go and ask who can do it without freeing the Zanpakuto. Using Zanpakuto abilities." This time, it was Lin Yu's turn to be confused. He has always done this, releasing his Zanpakuto only when he needs to use his ultimate move. Okay, then among all the Shinigami of the Gotei 13, there is no one else who can unleash the power of the Zanpakuto. Lin Yu still asked everyone without giving up. Shunsui came back to his senses. "As far as I know, there is no Shinigami who can do this." Kuchiki Hibiki was even more surprised. What was the extent of his cheap master's strength? If he didn't unleash his ability, even Captain Yamamoto might not be able to do it. It seems that I have made a profit by being able to worship him as my teacher. So delicious. Ba Yunjai thought for a long time and said to him seriously, Lin Yu, you'd better not reveal this matter. And everyone here, I hope you can also keep this secret. Looking at Ba Yunjai's extremely serious expression, others also realized the seriousness of the matter after thinking for a while. If this matter was spread, it would definitely be extremely detrimental to Lin Yu. Don't worry, Captain Ba Yunjai. We will definitely not leak this matter. We will let it rot in our stomachs. Several other people expressed their stance together. Lin Yu, sometimes you are such an idiot. You can even say such things, and in front of everyone. Ba Yunjai couldn't help but start scolding Lin Yu. Lin Yu was no longer stupid at this time, and said with a smile, Hey, you are my dearest mother-in-law. Even if you knew it, how could you harm me? Kiss. After that, he moved towards Ba Yunjai and kissed him. Lin Yu and Ba Yunjai had a long passionate kiss. Mwah. Die. Those who show affection must die. Can you two stop being so exaggerated? There are so many people here. If you do this again, I will draw my sword and chop you. Saito roared on the side, like an angry lioness, exuding radiance all over his body. There were bursts of cold air. Lin Yu stretched out his hand and made a provocative gesture. Hey, come on. Let's see who can kill whom, single dog. I can't bear it anymore. I'm going to chop you two fool to death and attack me personally. Saito's face turned red with anger, his body was trembling slightly, and the knife in his hand began to buzz. Chun Shui hurriedly hugged the furious Saito, fearing that she would really rush out and fight Lin Yu. He knew in his heart that with Saito's strength, it was completely impossible to hack Lin Yu to death. The end result would definitely be that she was pressed to the ground and rubbed by Lin Yu, although Ba Yunjai would not let this happen. Ba Yunjai quickly comforted Saito, Don't be angry. Don't be angry. I will cook and apologize to you later. Chun Shui, please stop sitting there and tell Jashiro to come over for dinner. There are a lot of people today. Lin Yu, take Shanghai for training. I see. Lin Yu hurriedly took Shanghai to the training ground to teach Shanghai for the first time. Shanghai remained suspicious of his unreliable master. Master, how are you going to teach me? Lin Yu touched his chin, thought for a moment and then said, Well. First, we have to start with the most basic things, such as how to hold the Zanpakuto correctly. With that said, Lin Yu picked up the Zanpakuto and demonstrated it to Shanghai. Who doesn't know how to hold a knife? No, 9 out of 10 times it's wrong. Hiss. Master Cheap is just holding his Zanpakuto. Why does it feel like there are flaws all over his body, but there are no flaws at all? Shanghai watched carefully, and then tried to imitate Lin Yu's movements, but something didn't feel right. Lin Yu saw Shanghai's confusion and said with a smile, You see, this is called the union of man and sword. Although we Shinigami fight by freeing the Zanpakuto, if one day we cannot free the Zanpakuto now, what should we do in battle? Killing fists and walking ghosts, this is a basic ability that Shinigami must master, and it should be familiar to you who come from a noble family. Quote. Shanghai has always used the abilities of Kido and Zanpakuto, especially after learning Bankai, he even neglected to use Zanpakuto. As a strong person, you must have a solid foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, you will be aloft in the sky. You will fall on the way to the top. Let me change the knife-holding posture and you can see. Lin Yu began to show Shanghai various knife-holding postures and explained the key points and purposes of each action. Shanghai tried hard to remember these techniques, but he still had some difficulty. Lin Yu encouraged, It doesn't matter, take your time, you have done a good job. As long as you persist, you will definitely make progress. Although he thought Lin Yu was unreliable at first, Shanghai now understood that Lin Yu did know a lot and was willing to teach him patiently. Master, I still want to learn your Shunpo footwork. The movement speed is too fast, so are you creating your own footwork? Shanghai looked at Lin Yu longingly. Lin Yu shook his head and said, You said flash, I can't teach you now. Shanghai was a little disappointed, but still asked curiously, Is it because I'm not strong enough to master that kind of footwork? Lin Yu suddenly thought of Nilu and wondered how she was doing in Hueco Mundo. He touched his chin and said to Shanghai with a smile, "That's not true. This footwork is indeed my own creation, but it's just I developed some techniques I learned from an old friend and combined them with Shinigami's Shunpo. I promised her not to spread them to others, and I didn't even teach you, my teacher." After hearing Lin Yu's answer, Shanghai felt a little discouraged. He sighed and said, "I understand. This is Master's secret." Lin Yu patted Shanghai's shoulder and comforted him, "Don't be discouraged. After all, I developed the flash by myself. I will discuss it with my old friend next time I see her, and she should agree. So, you just can't learn it now, I will teach it to your master and you later." After hearing Lin Yu's words, Shanghai's eyes rekindled hope. He nodded vigorously and said firmly, "Okay. I will definitely work hard to practice. Let's go, Shanghai. That's it for today. Let's go back and take a good rest to recuperate our energy. Starting tomorrow, we will formally train the posture and skills of holding the knife. Also, Captain Jashiro should be coming over soon. When he comes, we will all have a meal together. This meal is a welcome to you to join our big family." As expected, there was another chaos at dinner time. Everyone sat together and noisily shared stories and jokes with each other. Shanghai, on the other hand, sat quietly aside, smiling and listening to everyone's conversation. Although it was his first time participating in it, he felt a sense of peace of mind and warmth. It was late at night when Shanghai returned to Kuchiki's house, and the moon in the sky cast a silver glow, illuminating the entire courtyard. The door to Kuchiki's house was closed, with only the lantern at the door emitting a faint light. Shanghai gently pushed the gate of opening and walked into the courtyard. "Shanghai, you're back." The sound of Kuchiki's silver bell rang in Shanghai's ears. Shanghai raised his head and saw Kuchiki Ginling standing in the corridor, looking at him with a smile. "Father, it's so late and you haven't rested yet?" Shanghai asked. Kuchiki Yinling shook his head. "I'm waiting for you to come back and want to hear the results of your training today." Shanghai walked up to Kuchiki Yinling and said respectfully, "Father, Captain Lin Yu's teachings are very good. Although I thought the master was quite unreliable at first, after teaching me today, I found that he is a good person. As for master, I feel I have benefited a lot from studying with him." Kuchiki Yinling nodded and expressed satisfaction. "Haha, that's good. Captain Lin Yu is a very strong Shinigami, and he is more than enough to be your master." Shanghai asked curiously, "I know the master is very strong, but how strong is it? Can father explain to me in detail?" Kuchiki Ginling smiled, invited Shanghai to sit on the corridor together, then poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Shanghai. They were drinking tea and chatting. Kuchiki Ginling began to tell the story of Captain Lin Yu. Captain Lin Yu's reputation starts from the battle between Soul Society and the Quincy thousands of years ago. Shanghai listened with great interest, his eyes sparkling. He imagined that fierce battle, and his heart was filled with longing. "So master is so powerful," Shanghai exclaimed. Kuchiki Ginling couldn't help but sigh. "Your master is indeed an amazing Shinigami. So, Shanghai, you must learn from Captain Lin Yu and become an excellent Shinigami like him in the future." Shanghai nodded firmly. "I will work hard, father." Lin Yu sat leisurely on the chair next to him, holding a glass of wine in his hand and looking ahead with a smile. He said softly, "Hey, that's it, hold on, don't move." Not far away, a young figure was standing there, his whole body tense and his clothes soaked with sweat, but he still tried hard to maintain a specific posture. Kuchiki Shanghai couldn't help complaining. "Master, I have been in this position for almost half a day." Lin Yu smiled softly and comforted, "Keep on holding on. Although your strength is strong enough now, your foundation is still a little bit behind. What we have to do now is to make up for your foundation, so that you can go further." Far away. After saying that, he raised his glass and took a sip. Shanghai took a deep breath and continued to grit his teeth, enduring the fatigue and discomfort in his body. He knew that he had to persevere, because only in this way could he truly improve his strength. Lin Yu looked at Shanghai's firm expression and nodded secretly in his heart. He was quite perseverant. He had persisted for so long and seemed to be working harder than me before. Lin Yu put down his wine glass, stood up, and walked to Shanghai's side. He carefully observed Xianghei's movements and helped him adjust his posture from time to time. Time passed by, and the sun gradually set towards the west. However, Xianghei gritted his teeth and tried to maintain a stable posture. Finally, when the afterglow of the setting sun shone on them, Lin Yu nodded with satisfaction. That ends today. Xianghei breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at Lin Yu gratefully, then sat down to rest. Master, I feel like I'm almost exhausted. I'm just standing motionless, my hands and feet are numb. Sheltered by the stars, Lin Yu put his Zanpakudo against Kuchiki Xianghei's body. With the blessing of the power of the stars, Xianghei's fatigue was swept away. Xianghei, who felt refreshed all over his body, moaned involuntarily, Master, I have to say, your ability is really abnormal. It is a good helper in long-term battles. Now my body is not tired, but my heart is tired. I'm here to buff you. Lin Yu patted him on the shoulder and encouraged, it's definitely tiring, whether you're physically tired or mentally tired, you have to choose one. Continue tomorrow. Lin Yu said lightly. Xianghei's face was full of bitterness. Master, at least let me rest for a day. No, Lin Yu refused flatly. Cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. If you dare to say you are tired today, you dare to ask for leave to rest tomorrow. That's okay. Xianghei gritted his teeth, knowing that what Lin Yu said made sense. Okay, Master, I understand. Lin Yu showed a pleased smile, this is my good apprentice. Go back and rest early, and I will teach you something new tomorrow. At night, Xianghei lay on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. Although the physical fatigue has been eliminated, his heart is still heavy. Early the next morning, the sun shone into the room through the window. After Xianghei had breakfast early, he couldn't wait to rush to the 7th Division again. He was full of expectation and his steps were brisk, as if something important was waiting for him. As soon as he entered the gate of the 7th Division, Xianghei saw Ba Yunjai busy in the captain's room. He looked around, eagerly looking for his master, but there was no sign of him. So he asked curiously, Master, where is my master? Ba Yunjai stopped what he was doing and replied with a smile, that lazy pig of your master is still sleeping on the bed. This guy is always like this, it's really a headache. But why are you here so early today? Xianghei said excitedly. Master told me yesterday that he would teach me something new today. I was so looking forward to it that I rushed here early in the morning. His eyes were shining with desire and excitement. Ba Yunjai shook his head with a smile, turned around, made a cup of hot tea, handed it to Xianghei, and said, let's have a cup of tea first, and I'll drag that lazy guy up from the bed. After that, she walked quickly into the room, ready to wake up Lin Yu who was still sleeping. Xianghei took the teacup, blew lightly, and took a sip of hot tea. The aroma of tea overflowed, and the warm liquid slid down his throat, making him feel a sense of tranquility. However, the inner expectations have not diminished because of this, but have become stronger. Ba Yunjai grabbed Lin Yu's ears and said, lazy pig, Xianghei is here, why don't you get up quickly? It hurts, it hurts. Lin Yu grinned in pain, really, why did you come here so early? It's very impolite to disturb someone's dream. It's not like you said you wanted to teach him something new, otherwise why would Xianghei come so early? Why don't you get up yet? Lin Yu got up reluctantly, oh, if I had known I wouldn't have accepted apprentices, I couldn't even sleep in. Not long after, the 7th team training ground. Xianghei, today I will teach you swordsmanship. Lin Yu looked at Kuchiki Xianghei and said, swordsmanship, is it your own swordsmanship, master? But the swordsmanship passed down from my Kuchiki family is also very powerful. Kuchiki Xianghei asked in confusion. Sword skills, why learn that thing? Lin Yu rolled his eyes. I have to say that you are as naive as I was when I was young. I once asked Captain Yamamoto the same question, and he answered me the same way. Xianghei, do you know why I want you to learn how to hold a knife? Lin Yu asked seriously. Kuchiki Xianghei shook his head and said he didn't know. I won't say any more. I will demonstrate to you once. With your talent, you can understand it at a glance. Pay attention to concentration. Lin Yu put away his lazy look, stood up with a sword, drew it, and chopped strike, sheathed the knife, a set of movements as smooth and smooth. It was so fast that I almost didn't see the movement of Master's sword clearly. Moreover, when I drew the sword just now, I felt that I was facing a wild beast. No matter how I avoided it, I would be hit by the sword. After seeing Lin Yu's reaction, after the blow, Kuchiki Shanghai fell into deep thought. Lin Yu walked to the sidelines and ate the love breakfast prepared by Ba Yunjai for him. You think about it slowly and tell me when you understand it. Before Lin Yu finished his breakfast, Shanghai spoke, Master, I understand. Then you say it and I listen. You asked me to practice the sword-holding posture in order to build up my strength. The use of spiritual pressure combined with strength can put the opponent into a situation where he cannot move. The heart can move at will, and the sword and man are one. No matter what the opponent is, one sword is enough. One sword is enough. One slash. So there is no need to learn the sword technique. Kuchiki Shanghai expressed his understanding of the sword. It's true that I have not insulted your name as a genius. I will give you a message that Captain Yamamoto gave me. The sword technique will only affect the speed of your slashing. What an inconvenience that is. Today's learning goal, swing the knife 1,000 times. Lin Yu remembered that the commander-in-chief had done this to him before, and now that he was using it on Shanghai, it felt so good. I have taught almost everything that needs to be taught. He is indeed a genius. He learns too fast. I am still unqualified as a master. Lin Yu tossed and turned on the bed, feeling very irritable. He kept thinking about how to teach Shanghai better, but he could never come up with any new method. His irritability made it difficult for Ba Yunjai beside him to sleep. Ba Yunjai couldn't sleep because of him, and finally couldn't help but said, What are you doing? You don't sleep at night, twisting around like a caterpillar. If you don't sleep, I will sleep, every day. I'm exhausted from handling team duties. If you move again, I'll tie you up. Lin Yu stopped, sighed and said, Ba Yunjai, I can't seem to find anything that can teach Shanghai. Ba Yunjai yawned and replied lazily, That's great. After he leaves the army, you can sleep in every day and don't have to complain every day. Go to sleep. Lin Yu was silent for a while and responded softly, Oh. Then he hugged Ba Yunjai tightly, his heart still full of anxiety and uneasiness. In this way, Lin Yu stayed up all night holding Ba Yunjai, with various teaching scenes and problems constantly emerging in his mind. He had doubts about his ability and did not know how to become a qualified master. Lin Yu got up early this morning, but actually didn't sleep at all. Ba Yunjai looked at Lin Yu, who got up earlier than himself. Why is it so early today? Are you not going to sleep in? Lin Yu gave Ba Yunjai a kiss and said, I have decided. I am going to Hueco Mundo. Please help me report to the captain. Going to Hueco Mundo. What's the matter? I won't tell you now. You will know when I come back. Anyway, it is a good thing. Just go and go. Lin Yu immediately left the Seraiti, opened his black voice and stepped into Hueco Mundo again. Master's wife, I'm here again. Shanghai came to receive training so early. Ba Yunjai looked at the diligent Shanghai. Your trip today was in vain. Your master went to Hueco Mundo. I don't know when he will come back. Tisk, tisk, this ghost place of Hueco Mundo is still so desolate, how can we find Nilu? Lin Yu was suddenly in trouble. Lin Yu frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. After a moment, he decided to use the power of the stars to sense the surrounding space. At this moment, the first task is to find a Yachuka's level Daxu. After all, low-level hollows are like fools and difficult to communicate with. Back then, Lin Yu taught Nilu how to use Kido. As long as he captured a Daxu and asked about the situation, he might be able to find clues from it. Facts have proved that this method is indeed effective. It didn't take long for Lin Yu to sense the aura of a Daxu around him, so he immediately galloped in that direction, praying secretly in his heart, I hope this Daxu is at least the Akuka's level. As the distance between him and the target gradually narrowed, Lin Yu finally saw the outline of this virtual head clearly. You're lucky, it looks like a Yachuka's. Lin Yu whispered to himself. At this time, the Yakukas also noticed that a figure was rushing towards him at an extremely fast speed, but it had no time to react. Bakudo's 61, 6-stand light prison. Before Lin Yuren arrived, he had already restrained it with Kido. Achukas looked horrified, and was secretly shocked, as this Shinigami, and it's a very powerful one. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yu had arrived in front of this virtual person. He looked at Akukas, who was restrained by the six-stick light, with a smile, and said, "Hey, this virtual person, I want to get some information. If you can provide useful information and I will let you go. I won't kill you." Daxu looked nervously at the Shinigami in front of him, and saw that he was wearing a black Death Tyrant uniform with a white houri draped over it. He was obviously a captain-level figure. "Sir Shinigami, my name is Arashi. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As long as I know, I will tell you everything." For a Shinigami who can control himself so easily, Arashi is very sensible and only hopes that this will happen. An adult who can keep his promise. After all, he has finally evolved from Jillian to Akukas, and he really doesn't want to die in such an unexplained way. "I want to ask, have you ever heard of a Vastad Daxu who can use Shinigami Kido? Think about it carefully, otherwise you will be hacked to death by me." After speaking, Lin Yu shook his hand. "Zanpakudo. Sir Shinigami, sir, you are not talking about Niriel-sama, are you?" Lanya was obviously frightened. Lin Yu frowned. "It seems that you know. Are there any other Daxu who can use Kido? At the beginning, I made an agreement with Nailu not to let anyone know about it." "No, I have only seen Neliel use it. All the Daxu people are very surprised that she can use Shinigami Kido." Lanya knew that Neliel's ability to use Kido must be related to this Shinigami. But in order to survive, it's best not to ask questions that shouldn't be asked. "Do you know where Nelu is?" Lanya chose to tell the truth. "I don't know where Lady Niliel is. I just saw her from a distance in a place not long ago." "Location," Lin Yu urged impatiently. Lanya quickly named a place and pointed out the direction. "I hope you didn't lie to me, otherwise I will find you again and chop you down." After Lin Yu finished speaking, he quickly disappeared and sped away in the direction Lanya said. Looking at Lin Yu's leaving figure, Lanya finally breathed a sigh of relief, but still had lingering fears. It couldn't help complaining and crying. "What kind of bad luck have I got? I can meet such a powerful Shinigami in Hueco Mundo. I want to go home." However, at this moment, Lanya was still tightly bound by the 6 sticks of light and could not move. It can only pray that Lin Yu will not come back to cause trouble for itself, and at the same time hope that Kido can dissipate as soon as possible and let it regain its freedom. After Lin Yu tortured Daxu all the way, he finally found Nailu. There was also a blind Daxu in the middle, but he was directly hacked to death by him. Lin Yu greeted the figure in front of him. "Nailu, I haven't seen you for hundreds of years. How are you doing?" Feeling the aura that was constantly approaching her, Nailu was vigilantly preparing for battle, but when she saw the person clearly, she was surprised to find that it was her old friend Lin Yu. She couldn't help but wonder, "Lin Yu, why has your spiritual pressure changed?" Lin Yu was not surprised that Nailu didn't recognize him, and explained, "There was an accident before, which caused my spiritual pressure to change." Nelu breathed a sigh of relief and then asked, "It's been hundreds of years, what's the reason for you coming to Hueco Mundo again?" Lin Yu smiled and replied, "I came here specifically to see you this time." Nailu was a little surprised and asked, "Looking for me?" Lin Yu nodded and said, "When we were parted last time, I asked you for advice on the technique of ringing. Later, I combined it with Shunpo and developed a new movement method, blinking." Quote. Nailu's eyes lit up and she asked curiously, "Oh, what kind of movement technique is that?" Lin Yu explained patiently, "This is a faster moving footwork than our Shinigami's Shunpo, your Hibiki, and the Quincy's flying scythes." Nailu expressed great interest after hearing this, and Lin Yu continued, "I am going to teach it to my wife and disciples, hoping to get your consent. Of course, in exchange, I will also teach you the technique of blinking." Quote. Nailu nodded and agreed without hesitation, "Okay. Strictly speaking, the flash is a footwork developed by you. You are free to teach it to whomever you want, but you can't hide it." Lin Yu smiled and promised, No, after all, Shuangfang combines the skills of ringing, and it still needs your permission. Don't worry, I will teach you Shuangfang without any reservation." In this way, Lin Yu began to explain the techniques and key points of instant flash to Nailu in detail. He imparted his many years of understanding and insights on teleportation to Nailu without reservation. Nailu listened attentively, asked some questions from time to time, and had in-depth discussions with Lin Yu. In the process, They also talked about each other's experiences over the past hundreds of years. Nailu told her story in Haweko Mundo with great interest, which made Lin Yu listen with interest. In contrast, Lin Yu could only smile helplessly. After all, he had spent almost all of these hundreds of years lying down, and there really wasn't much worth sharing. However, happy time always flies by, and in a blink of an eye, it's time for them to part ways again. Before parting, they left each other's contact information so that they could keep in touch in the future. See you next time, Lin Yu, but not for so long. Nailu said with a smile, a trace of expectation in her eyes. Goodbye, Nailu, Lin Yu responded with a smile. As the world-traveling door opened, Lin Yu turned around and returned to Seoul Society. In the evening, Ba Yunjai saw that Lin Yu had returned. Has the matter been settled so quickly? The two of them expressed their tenderness again, which made Saito furious. It's been taken care of. I'm going to teach you in Shanghai the blink of an eye. Saito, do you want to learn? Lin Yu tilted his head and looked at Saito. Aren't you talking nonsense? I also want to learn your footwork. Saito replied fiercely. Ba Yunjai knew that Lin Yu went to Haweko Mundo this time for this matter. Since he didn't tell him, he must have his reasons. As a wife, he should learn to understand. Beeman, please go to Kuchiki's house and ask Hibiki to come to the 7th Division. Lin Yu sat at the desk and said to the deputy captain Basemon, who was standing aside. I'll go right away, Captain. Basemon promised, turned and left. At Kuchiki's house, Shanghai received the news that Lin Yu was back and was very excited. He knew that he finally had the opportunity to ask Lin Yu again for the key points of integrating man and knife. So, he couldn't wait to follow Basemon back to the 7th team. When they arrived at the 7th team, Lin Yu was waiting for them in the office. Seeing Shanghai coming, Lin Yu smiled and nodded to express welcome. Master, didn't you go to Haweko Mundo and come back so soon? Shanghai asked curiously. After all, it had only been a day. Could it be that Lin Yu just went to Haweko Mundo for a walk and then came back? Lin Yu replied with a smile. Yes, I originally planned to go to Haweko Mundo to stay for a few more days, but things were handled smoothly, so I came back early. After hearing this, Shanghai muttered to himself, hey, I must have wanted to be lazy for a day, so I went to Haweko Mundo. However, he still said respectfully, so that's it, Master. Then did you encounter any dangers when you went to Haweko Mundo this time? Lin Yu shook his head and said, no, everything went smoothly. But how are you doing with your sword drawing practice? You were not lazy when I was away yesterday, right? Shanghai patted his chest confidently and said, of course I have practiced drawing the sword, Master. I also want to understand what you said earlier about the unity of man and sword, but I haven't had the experience yet. Lin Yu nodded with satisfaction and said, it's a good thing that you haven't relaxed, but you want to learn how to combine man and knife in one day. You are thinking nonsense, even though you are a genius. At this time, Lin Yu turned to Basemon and said, Benemon, I'll leave it to you for today's team duties. Bonsai wants to practice with me. Basemon quickly agreed. Okay, Captain. Please feel free to leave it to me. This is what I should do as the vice captain, but Captain Hakuensai has been worrying about it during this time. After saying that, he turned around and left the office. When Shanghai saw Basemon leaving, he immediately approached Lin Yu and asked curiously, Master, will my master also give me guidance today? Lin Yu glanced at Saito, who had no presence in the captain's room. Follow me quickly, let's go to the training ground together. Captain Saito wants to come too. Shanghai was even more surprised. Lin Yu smiled and said, don't ask yet, you will know later. After saying that, he stood up and took Ba Yunjai and others to the training ground of the 7th team. On the training ground, the sun was shining brightly and the breeze was blowing, making people feel particularly comfortable. Lin Yu walked to the center of the training ground, stopped, turned around and looked at the three of them. What I want to teach you today must not be told to anyone else, otherwise I will personally kill them. Lin Yu said seriously. Master is definitely going to teach you something awesome. After hearing this, Shanghai was filled with excitement. He nodded vigorously and said, I will definitely not tell anyone else, Master. Lin Yu smiled with satisfaction, and then said, today I am going to teach you the blink of an eye. When Shanghai heard this, his eyes suddenly widened with a look of astonishment on his face. He took a deep breath and murmured to himself, "Master, are you going to teach us this?" He turned to look at his wife and Saito. The captain noticed that there was no emotion on their faces, and they seemed to have known about this for a long time. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. It turned out that he was the only one who didn't know, and he was acting like a clown. Shanghai blinked, and a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said to Lin Yu, "Master, didn't you say that teleportation cannot be taught externally? Is it because you think I am too good, so you are going to make an exception and teach it to me?" Lin Yu smiled, resisting the urge to beat him up and said, "Shanghai, you are really too narcissistic. You are very good, but this is not the reason why I made an exception. In fact, there is another purpose for going to Hawako Mundo this time, which is to find my old friend and get her permission so that I can teach you the blink of an eye." Lin Yu looked at the three people in front of him and said in a deep voice, "The blink is a technique I developed by combining Shu's ring and Shunpo. Shu's ring can avoid detection nerves, so you think it is very fast. This is my developed initial version of Flash." Initial version. The three of them expressed confusion. "My current blink is version 2.0, because I also incorporated the Quincy's flying scythe kicks. The flying scythe kicks are completely different from Shinigami's Shunpo. Shunpo is a footwork that mobilizes the spiritual pressure in the body to support body movement. The flying scythe leg moves at high speed by mobilizing the spirits outside the body. Before that, I will teach you how to mobilize the spirit outside the body, otherwise you will not be able to learn Flash 2.0 no matter what." Saito and Ba Yunjai looked at each other, their eyes showing solemnity. It seemed that Lin Yu had also mastered the ability of the Quincy. Now that he knows how to mobilize the Reiki, he might even be able to use the Quincy's blood armor. After listening to Lin Yu's story, Saito asked, "Have you also mastered the ability of blood armor?" Lin Yu glanced at Saito in surprise, "You think fast enough. I have indeed mastered the blood armor." Among the three, only Shanghai looked confused. "What kind of blood suit?" Lin Yu continued to explain the essentials of instant flash in detail. "First of all, we must concentrate all our attention to feel the fluctuations of spiritual pressure around us, so that we can detect the enemy's attack intention in advance. Secondly, when the enemy launches an attack, we must use our own spiritual power and speed to react quickly and skillfully mobilize the external spirits to avoid attacks instantly. Finally, while avoiding attacks, we must seize the opportunity to launch a counterattack and attack the enemy with a fatal blow." Shanghai was fascinated by what he heard, and his heart was filled with anticipation and excitement. He couldn't wait to try this magical flash technique. So, he took a step forward and prepared to meet the challenge. "Master, I seem to understand, can I try?" Lin Yu nodded to Shanghai, indicating that he could start. Then, he imitated the enemy's attack movements and swung his arms out with a fierce momentum. At this moment, Shanghai concentrated his attention and kept in mind the key points that Lin Yu just said. The moment Lin Yu took action, he flashed and moved as fast as lightning, successfully avoiding the attack. "It feels really good. It's much faster than Shunpo," Shanghai said with a satisfied look on his face. "Very good." A hint of admiration flashed in Lin Yu's eyes, and he nodded with satisfaction. "However, you have only initially mastered the technique of blinking. If you want to achieve true blinking, you need more practice. Especially when it comes to mobilizing spirit seeds, you are just beginners today. Once you can mobilize the spirit seeds as you wish, your speed will be faster." In the following time, the three of them practiced the blinking technique over and over again under Lin Yu's patient guidance. They gradually mastered the tricks, their movements became more and more skillful, and their speed became faster and faster. "You have all learned the skills of blinking. All you need to do is practice more. Next, I will teach you the skills of using blood equipment." Hearing this, Saito showed a surprised expression on his face. He seemed to be a little disbelieving and said, "Do you also want to teach us the blood armor skills?" Lin Yu sighed helplessly, and then responded, "I have taught you all about blinking. How can I not teach you about blood equipment? But there is one thing to note, these cannot be passed on to others." At this time, among the three of them, only Shanghai looked confused. He asked curiously, "Blood suit? What is that? Why are the master's wife and Captain Saito so surprised?" Lin Yu was really too lazy to explain, so he said to Saito, Saito, you should explain it to him. Saito curled his lips, and then said to Shanghai, Kid, do you know about Quincy? Shanghai nodded quickly, indicating that he understood, and added, I know, I have understood, they are our enemies. Master also said just now that Flash 2.0 combines the Quincy's flying scythe legs. Quote. Saito went on to explain. Almost all of the Quincy's skills are based on the use of spirit suns, but ordinary Quincy's do not have this power. It can be said that a Quincy who can master the ability of blood armor is equivalent to, for those who are captain level or higher in Shinigami, blood armor is a skill that only high-level Quincy can master. It can be divided into two types, blood armor and static blood armor. Thousands of years ago, in that fierce battle, the Quincy demonstrated this powerful ability. The blood-moving equipment can greatly enhance the attack power, while the static blood equipment can increase the defense power. Now, you should understand why Ba Yunjai and I are you so surprised. After Shanghai heard this, a surprised expression appeared on his face. This is a forbidden technique of the Quincy, teacher, you actually know it. He looked at Lin Yu in disbelief, full of curiosity about this cheap teacher, and admiration. Saito was still full of doubts, scratching his head and asked, although you have just taught us the skills of using Reiko, we still don't know how to use these skills to achieve the blood armor skill. If we just mastered it, if you can learn how to use the spirit child to use blood armor, wouldn't it mean that everyone can easily master this skill? In this case, wouldn't blood armor become a waste? After hearing Saito's question, Lin Yu rolled his eyes helplessly, thinking that this guy was really ignorant. He said angrily, just because you don't know it doesn't mean that I don't know it. Otherwise, how can I be qualified to teach you? Saito, I'm afraid you are an idiot. After saying that, he gave Saito a hard look and said, as if asking how she could ask such a stupid question. Lin Yu took a deep breath and said calmly, the key to the use of blood equipment lies in the degree of control over the spirit sun. He looked at the three of them, with confidence flashing in his eyes. With your current level of control over the spirit child, you are still unable to achieve that level. But through continuous practice and practice, you can master it one day. Lin Yu waved to Ba Yunjai and said in a joking tone, come here. Hearing this, Ba Yunjai's heart tightened. Looking at Lin Yu's malicious smile, he thought that this boy must be up to something again. Saito on the side noticed the strange atmosphere between the two and immediately became alert. His right hand tightly grasped the hilt of the Zanpakuto at his waist, ready to deal with possible situations at any time. What on earth do you two want to do? Saito stared at Lin Yu and Ba Yunjai with vigilant eyes, and said through gritted teeth, if you plan to show off your love in front of me again, I will definitely kill you today. After saying that, Saito firmly grasped the handle of the knife, as if he was going to pull out the Zanpakuto in the next moment and teach the bad couple in front of him a lesson. Shanghai saw something was wrong and ran away immediately. Lin Yu was very angry. His original intention was to teach Ba Yunjai how to use blood armor, but now it was misunderstood to mean something else. Saito, what are you doing? I asked Ba Yunjai to come over, but I have serious things to do. Who would show off their affection in front of a single like you? Don't be so sensitive, please. Saito still didn't believe Lin Yu's words and felt that the two of them were quite bad. HMPH, you two fools, haven't you shown your affection in front of me too many times? Lin Yu looked helplessly at Shanghai, who was hiding in the corner, and shouted loudly, why are you running so far away? Get back here quickly. This way I can take advantage of the situation. When Lin Yu saw Saito's appearance, he also found it funny, but he stopped teasing her and said seriously, forget it, in order to prove my character to you, Saito, come here first. How can you not trust me so much? I am a very good person. After hearing this, Saito still had some doubts in her heart, but she still decided to give Lin Yu a chance, so she walked carefully in front of Lin Yu, without forgetting to threaten, okay, let's just believe it again. If you dare to lie to me once, I will kill you if you don't. Lin Yu looked at Saito's nervous look, smiled helplessly, and then asked her to sit down. Saito sat down obediently and stared at Lin Yu closely. Lin Yu gently put his hand on Saito's back. Saito stiffened slightly and wanted to move. But Lin Yu immediately stopped him. Don't move. I'm going to use my power to circulate in your body for a week. You have to carefully feel and remember how this power works. As Lin Yu's power continued to circulate in Saito's body, lines like tree branches appeared on her skin. At first, the lines glowed red, and then they lit up blue. After Lin Yu took back his power, the changes in Saito disappeared. You remember the path I used to mobilize the Spirit Sun just now, just follow this path. Lin Yu told Saito. Saito felt like she had seen a ghost. Lin Yu didn't play tricks on her this time. Okay, you didn't lie to me this time. I'll try it myself this time. Saito tried again according to the way the spiritual power in his body was running just now. Branch-like lines also appeared, but the lighted color was lighter, but it was successful at least. After helping Saito memorize the running path of the blood suit, Lin Yu guided Ba Yunjai and Xianghe again. All three of them have initially mastered the use of blood equipment. Just when Lin Yu was telling Ba Yunjai and Xianghe the key points. Clang! A crisp sound came, like a metal collision. The sound of the knife hitting an object rang in the ears of the three of them. Lin Yu turned around and saw that it was Saito who pulled out his Zanpakuto and slashed his arm. Fortunately, the static blood device was running. What the hell are you doing, you tiger fool? Lin Yu's eyes widened and he looked at Saito in disbelief. I'm trying out the defensive capabilities of the static blood suit. I've only killed Quincy who used the static blood suit before. This time I learned how to use it, so I just want to try it. Saito said innocently, as if this is just normal behavior. The corner of Lin Yu's mouth twitched and he said helplessly, you just learned the static blood armor and you are not yet proficient. Are you afraid that the blood armor will be useless and your hand will be cut off? If your hand is gone, I will give it to you. Find a big eagle, and you can become the great eagle hero of the Soul Society. There was a hint of ridicule in his tone, but it was more of surprise at Saito's bold attempt. Saito blinked, not seeming to realize the seriousness of the problem. Instead, he smiled and said, the Condor Hero, it sounds like a very cool name. There was a sinister atmosphere in her smile. Her behavior also made Lin Yu feel speechless for a while. Saito was always so unexpected. Time flies, the years are like a shuttle, and in the blink of an eye, the cycle of 4 seasons has passed. Xianghe, I have taught you everything I can teach you so far. There was an old saying in my hometown, the master leads you in, and cultivation depends on the individual. It all depends on what level you can reach in the future, yourself. Lin Yu stared at Xianghe in front of him, his heart full of emotion. After this period of teaching, Xianghe's strength has improved significantly. It is no exaggeration to say that with Xianghe's current strength, coupled with his mastery of instant flash, blood armor, and the next level swordsmanship, in addition, his combat prowess has already reached the captain level. What is even more commendable is that Xianghe's state of mind has also undergone earth-shaking changes, and he is no longer as arrogant and rude as before. At this moment, he has become a well-deserved strong man in Soul Society. Teacher, thank you for your careful cultivation. Without your guidance, I may not be able to reach where I am today. Xianghe knelt down and thanked me. This cheap master is the right one. Lin Yu smiled and waved his hand, signaling Xianghe to get up. Although you are already very strong, you still have to find your own way to reach the top. Xianghe nodded solemnly, with a firm light shining in his eyes, as if Lin Yu's every word was engraved in his heart. He knows that these are valuable experiences and wisdom that are crucial to his future growth. As for your spiritual training, I can't give you any good advice. You can only rely on yourself. Lin Yu said helplessly. He knew that spiritual training is a long and arduous process, and Xianghe needs to go through it himself, and understanding. Master has taught me enough, and I will work hard for the rest. Xianghe looked at Lin Yu gratefully. He understood that Master had given him a lot of help, and he needed to walk the next road by himself. Xianghe, do you want me to unlock your Zanpakuto now? Lin Yu asked suddenly. He wanted to confirm whether Xianghe was ready to face Muramasa's power. Kuchiki Xianghe hesitated for a moment, seeming to be thinking about this issue. After a while, he slowly said, Master, I can't completely suppress Muramasa's influence on me. As for unblocking, I'll wait until I have confidence. He knew that Muramasa was very powerful, and if he didn't have enough, be aware that rashly lifting the lockdown may bring unexpected consequences. But it's not a solution that you can't use your Zanpakuto all the time. Lin Yu frowned, thought for a moment and then said, Shanghai, give me your Zanpakuto. Shanghai handed the Muramasa in front of Lin Yu without hesitation. Lin Yu took Muramasa, then sat cross-legged on the ground, placing the knife across his legs. Then, he closed his eyes and his mind sank into Muramasa's world. Time passed by, Shanghai stood quietly and waited. After a while, Lin Yu opened his eyes, handed Muramasa to Shanghai, and said with a smile, "It finally succeeded. You can use it now." Shanghai looked at Lin Yu in confusion and asked, "Master, what did you just do? Why can I suddenly use Muramasa again?" He tried to liberate Muramasa and found that it could be completed smoothly. Although it seems that the power is not as good as before, at least it can be used normally. Shanghai's heart moved and he materialized Muramasa. However, what surprised him was that Muramasa in front of him turned blind and dull. Lin Yu explained, "I temporarily sealed Muramasa's consciousness. In this way, you can regain control of this Zanpakuto. However, because Muramasa's consciousness is sealed, its power may be weakened. So, use it with caution in the future." Lin Yu patted Shanghai's shoulder and said sincerely, "From tomorrow on, you don't have to come to the 7th team to practice every day. You need to settle down for a while, and you will go to the 1st team soon." Shanghai heard this after the news. There was a surprised expression on his face, and he asked doubtfully, "1st team? Master, do you have inside information? What position will I take in the 1st team? As far as I know, 1st team Sasaki the vice captain has no plans to be promoted. Should I also take the 3rd position?" Lin Yu shook his head and replied with a smile, "That's not true. Captain Yamamoto had previously planned to set up a special unit under the 1st Division, and you will be transferred there to serve as the captain. This is an important task. I need you to go all out. Work hard, and I look forward to you officially becoming the captain of the Gotei 13. After hearing this, Shanghai's eyes shone with excitement. He knew that this was a rare opportunity, but at the same time he also felt tremendous pressure. He clenched his fists and said firmly, "Don't worry, Master. I will definitely work hard and won't let you down." Lin Yu smiled and nodded, full of confidence in Shanghai. He knew that Shanghai had extraordinary strength and potential. As long as he was given enough time and opportunities, he would be able to become an outstanding captain. In the following days, Shanghai began to prepare for the 1st team. After Shanghai left, Lin Yu returned to his previous lazy look, not knowing what he was doing all day long. However, since Renamon took over the team affairs, Lin Yu and Bonsai often went to the 4th Division. Sometimes they even went to the lake where they once lay together to fish, drink and enjoy themselves. Leisure time. Saito, on the other hand, chose to leave in order not to be spoiled by these two people anymore and went to live in the real world. He also said that he wanted to experience a new way of life. Ba Yunjai looked at the shaking fishing rod, but Lin Yu was absent-minded and didn't care about the shaking of the fishing rod. Ba Yunjai hurriedly pulled the fish up. "The fish is hooked. What are you thinking about? You almost ran away. Come on, what are you going to eat later?" Lin Yu heard the sound and came back to his senses. He saw that the fish on the fishing rod had been pulled ashore by Ba Yunjai. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Sorry, I was distracted just now." Ba Yunjai rolled his eyes at him. "What are you thinking about? You are so fascinated." Lin Yu hesitated for a moment, but decided to say what he was thinking. "I'm thinking about a question." Ba Yunjai asked curiously, "What are you thinking about? Tell me quickly." Lin Yu took a deep breath and slowly said, "I think." As he spoke, he looked at Ba Yunjai, with a trace of tangle and worry in his eyes. Ba Yunjai was so embarrassed when Lin Yu looked at her, her cheeks turned red. She pushed Lin Yu gently and said coquettishly, "Why are you looking at me like this? Just say what you have to say." Lin Yu still didn't speak, but kept glancing at Ba Yunjai. Ba Yunjai was stunned, with a blush on her face. She lowered her head and said shyly, "Should we have a baby?" Lin Yu then realized that Ba Yunjai had misunderstood, and he quickly explained, "Ah. That's not what I meant." At this moment, Ba Yunjai suddenly reacted. Her eyes widened and she said angrily, "Okay, you dare to trick me. See how I deal with you." After saying that, she stretched out her hand and pinched Lin Yu's waist began to rotate 360 degrees. Lin Yu grinned in pain and quickly begged for mercy. "My dear wife, have mercy on me, I was wrong. Ba Yunjai then let go of his hand and snorted proudly, "You dare to tease me again." Lin Yu shook his head helplessly, hugged Ba Yunjai with a smile, and said softly, "Actually, I was thinking about the power in my body." Ba Yunjai asked doubtfully, "Is there any problem?" Lin Yu was silent for a moment, and then said, "I'm wondering if I can put my fused power into your body. Over the years, I have only converted a small part of my spiritual power. Its quality is extremely high. I don't know if there will be any problems if you put it into your body." Ba Yunjai frowned and said, "Then give it a try. How will you know if there will be any problems if you don't try?" Lin Yu sighed, "This kind of thing can't be taken carelessly. However, if it can really succeed, it should be of great help to improve your strength." "Then try it." Lin Yu pondered for a moment, "But the risk is too great. I don't want to risk your safety." Ba Yunjai looked at Lin Yu tenderly, "It's okay, it's peaceful time now, and with a master like you here, what are you afraid of? Give it a try." Lin Yu hugged Ba Yunjai tightly and said, "Thank you for encouraging me, wife. Then give it a try. How will you know if you don't try?" "Okay, let's try it." Lin Yu carefully injected the transformed immortal power into Ba Yunjai's body. In order to avoid accidents, Lin Yu only used a trace of immortal power. Even if there were any special circumstances, it would not threaten the safety of Ba Yunjai. As the immortal power entered Ba Yunjai's body, she felt that her own spiritual pressure began to boil and was out of control. The immortal power was so overbearing that it immediately surged through her body, and her spiritual pressure was constantly being swallowed up by the immortal power. Feeling the changes in Ba Yunjai's body, Lin Yu was anxious and tried to take back this magical power. Quickly mobilize the spiritual pressure in your body. If you continue like this, your spiritual pressure will be swallowed up by this power. Realizing that his spiritual pressure was rapidly decreasing or even dissipating, Ba Yunjai gritted his teeth and continued to integrate the little spiritual pressure left in his body into his immortal power. "No, Ba Yunjai, the immortal power is out of my control, and I can't take it back." Just when Ba Yunjai's spiritual pressure was about to be exhausted, the immortal power was no longer so violent, but it still continued to absorb her spiritual pressure. "It's over." Just after Ba Yunjai's spiritual pressure was absorbed by the immortal power, Lin Yu thought she had lost her Shinigami power. Immortal power suddenly began to feed Ba Yunjai back. Lin Yu nervously observed Ba Yunjai's condition and saw that the spiritual pressure in her body began to recover. Ba Yunjai opened her eyes with her eyes closed. She felt the spiritual pressure in her body and shouted in surprise, "My total spiritual pressure has decreased, but it has become stronger." Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief, and the stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. He smiled and said, "It seems that this attempt was successful." Ba Yunjai hugged Lin Yu excitedly and said affectionately, "Thank you, Lin Yu." Lin Yu gently stroked Ba Yunjai's hair and said in an extremely gentle tone, "Thank you for nothing. However, this power comes from me after all, so you should be careful when using it." Ba Yunjai nodded obediently, his eyes full of determination. I will make good use of this power to protect myself and our family." Seeing that the matter of entering the immortal power had been successful, Lin Yu suddenly showed a smirk. He leaned into Ba Yunjai's ear and whispered softly, "Ba Yunjai, didn't you just say that we should have a child? Then we have to work hard." Quote. After saying that, Lin Yu picked up Ba Yunjai and strode towards the wooden house. Ba Yunjai was startled by his sudden move, but he quickly adapted and a shy blush appeared on his face. Lin Yu carried Ba Yunjai into the wooden house and gently placed her on the bed. The two people's eyes met together, and their love for each other became stronger. They hugged each other tightly, enjoying the warmth and sweetness of this moment. On this beautiful night, they released their inner emotions to their heart's content, as if they were the only two people left in the world. The early morning sunlight shines on the bed through the window, and Lin Yu and Ba Yunjai sleep in each other's arms. A breeze blew, gently fluttering the curtains. Ba Yunjai woke up leisurely and looked at Lin Yu, who was sleeping beside him, with a happy smile on his face. She gently pushed Lin Yu's arm away and got out of bed to prepare breakfast. While she was busy, Lin Yu also woke up. He walked behind Ba Yunjai, hugged her waist, and said softly, "Good morning, wife." Ba Yunjai turned around and smiled. "Good morning, go wash up quickly, breakfast will be ready soon." Eat. After breakfast, Lin Yu and Ba Yunjai came to the courtyard together. Lin Yu stretched and said, "The weather is really nice today, let's go out for a walk." Ba Yunjai nodded, and the two held hands and walked on the quiet path, enjoying this rare leisure. "I really hope this can happen every day, but as the timeline progresses, the main plot is coming soon, and as expected, Kenpachi Kariashiki is about to be hacked to death by Mole Josoya. Find time to visit him." Kariashiki Kenpachi is a talented person in the original work. Not only is he top-notch in terms of his own strength, but he was also recruited by the Zero Squadron, but he said that he couldn't stand the lonely and boring guard job, and he believed that as a Kenpachi, he should stay in the 11th Division, so he refused the recruitment of the 0th Division. In order to have more combat power against the omniscient and omnipotent Yuwatch, this man had to be saved no matter what. Although Lin Yu could compete with Yuha at the middle gate, he knew very well that the Knights of the Star Cross with the Holy Body were powerful, not to mention Yuha's personal guards, and they should not be taken lightly. Thousands of years later, almost all the captains of the Gotei 13 were hung up and beaten by this group of people, and there was also the crest that could absorb Bankai. The situation today is still serious. As for Kurosaki Ichigo, Lin Yu did not place his hopes on him. In this world, only relying on one's own strength is the most reliable. So, how to get close to Kariashiki? Lin Yu thought hard. After all, he was not familiar with him. He was recalling the plot about Kariashiki, and suddenly remembered that Kariashiki and Shunsui seemed to be close friends. He remembered that after Kariashiki passed away, Shunsui often went to pay homage to him. Well, that's the decision. First go to Chunshui and ask him to help me introduce Kayashiki. Lin Yu finally cleared his mind. In the 8th Division, Lin Yu looked at the female Shinigami in front of him, who had a long ponytail and a pair of rimless glasses. She looked very royal from the looks of it. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart, isn't this Yadomaru Lisa? Remember, when he first arrived in Soul Society, he mistakenly identified Ba Yunjai as her. But now it seems that the two do have some similarities. However, looking at the obvious vice captain sign on Lisa's arm, Lin Yu knew that he could not show his familiarity with her. So, he pretended to be calm and said, "Are you the vice captain of the 8th Division? I want to find the captain of the Beijing band." After saying that, he quietly waited for the other party's response. "You are Captain Lin Yu, I am Kyoryu's vice captain, Yadomaru Lisa." "Ah, do you know me?" Lin Yu pointed at himself. "I often hear that Captain Kiraku mentions you. Kiraku has been staying in the 7th Division some time ago. Thank you for taking care of him." Lisa's cold voice is so nice. Maybe Ba Yunjai will learn from it some other time. Lin Yu scratched his head and chuckled. "By the way, you know my wife was also the captain of the 8th Division before, and so am I. I have been the deputy captain of the 8th Division. We are all a family, so you don't have to be so polite. Can you take me to find Chun Shui? I'm really sorry. Just now Soul Society received news that Daxu has invaded Soul Society." Captain Kyoband led members of the 8th Division and the 4th Division's medical team members to Rukongai to support Kariashiki of the 11th Division. "Captain, will Captain Lin Yu wait here for his return?" Lisa said apologetically. "I almost got into trouble when fishing every day." Lin Yu wanted to give himself a slap in the face. Kariashiki Kenpachi died after being suddenly challenged by Moleho Suya at a cocktail party after Rukongai defeated Sal Apollo. "I wonder if something has happened." "Lisa, no need, I'll go find him myself." After saying that, Lin Yu rushed to the 11th Division as quickly as possible. "Captain Lin Yu, you are going the wrong way. Captain Kyoko is going to Rukongai." Lisa was very surprised when she saw Lin Yu using Shunpo and rushing towards the direction of the 11th Squadron. "I hope I can make it in time. Kayashiki must not die. After all, he is a good combat power." Lin Yu used the flash to the extreme. On the way to Team 11, Lin Yu felt 2 waves of spiritual pressure from the Zanpakuto Shikai, and then 1 wave of spiritual pressure dissipated quickly. Oops. Lin Yu didn't need to think about it. He knew that it must be Kariashiki and Mole Chungshuang who were also working together, and it was Kariashiki's spiritual pressure that was dissipating. Team 11, and the members of Team 4 who followed Kiraku were giving first aid to Kawara-shiki. The Shinigami of Team 11 released their Zanpakutos and faced Moleho Shuya one after another, preparing to avenge Kariashiki. Sailor Lekin also pressed his Zanpakuto, preparing to deal with emergencies. Stop everyone! A loud shout was heard, followed by a strong pressure. Everyone present could not bear the pressure and fell to their knees. Lin Yu. Chun Shui looked at Lin Yu, who was coming, with doubts in his eyes. Why did he come? It's Captain Lin Yu of Division 7. The Shinigami of Division 11 all looked at the visitor. Lin Yu glanced around and saw members of the 4th Division surrounding Karyashiki, nervously giving him emergency treatment. However, these ordinary soldiers have limited Kaido abilities and cannot achieve good results. Get out of the way. Lin Yu pushed everyone away without hesitation and quickly took over the work of the members of the 4th Division. He used Kaido skills to give Karyashiki first aid with all his strength, and channel the power of the stars into his body to speed up recovery. Lin Yu felt that the internal organs in Karyashiki's body had been messed up, and the situation was very difficult. He concentrated all his spiritual power and continuously input Kaido energy in an attempt to repair damaged tissues and organs. As time passed by, the surrounding Shinigami did not even dare to take a breath, for fear that any sound would interfere with Lin Yu's treatment of Karyashiki. The whole scene fell into an eerie silence. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief and succeeded in saving Karyashiki's life. At this moment, Karyashiki's originally pale and papery face gradually regained its color. He slowly opened his eyes, with gratitude in his eyes. It's Captain Lin Yu. Thank you for saving my life. Karyashiki's voice was weak, but full of sincere gratitude. You continue to treat Captain Karyashiki, Lin Yu said to the first aid personnel of the 4th Division. Lin Yu stood up slowly, looked at the tense situation, and said in a deep voice, put away all your Zanpakuto, free your Zanpakuto to face your colleagues. Do you want to start a rebellion? Hearing this, all the members of the 11th Squadron sheathed their swords and knelt on the ground to thank Lin Yu for saving Karyashiki's life. Chun Shui, what happened? Lin Yu asked knowingly. In fact, Jingle also wanted to know why Lin Yu came to the 11th Division, but he still answered Lin Yu's question. Moleho Suya just challenged Karyashiki in order to win the title of Kenpachi, but the 46th Chamber issued an order strictly prohibiting Karyashiki from using Bankai in the Seraiti, so this situation was caused. After hearing Chun Shui's answer, Lin Yu looked at Mole Cheng Shuangye, who was also kneeling on one knee with his sword in hand, who was also injured, and immediately asked the remaining members of the 4th Division to treat him. That's it for today. Mole Jiro Shuang also defeated Karyashiki. He is the new captain of the 11th Division, the 8th generation Kenpachi. Lin Yu set the tone for what happened. Mole Chungshuang, who was kneeling on one knee, also breathed a sigh of relief. Before the man arrived just now, he was frightened by the coercion coming from him. He knew that even when he was in his prime, he might not be a match for this person. Captain Lin Yu of the 7th Division. Mole Chungshuang also secretly remembered this name in his heart. Lin Yu, why did you come to the 11th Division? Seeing that the situation was under control, Chun Shui asked his question. Just now I went to the 8th Division to have a drink with you. Lisa said that you went to reinforce the 11th Division to deal with the Great Hollow invasion. On the way to Rukongai, I sensed the release of the Zanpakuto spirit coming from the 11th Division. I rushed over to suppress the fluctuations. After all, our 7th team is the inner court guard. Lin Yu found a perfect excuse, and no one could find fault. So that's it. Jingle felt that Lin Yu's behavior was reasonable. Hey, you guys take Karyashiki to our 7th Division. I treated him just now. I will continue to treat him in the future, so I won't trouble my colleagues in the 4th Division. After saying that, 2 people from the 11th Division carried the Kayashiki and followed Lin Yu to the 7th Division. Chun Shui, I will go back to the team first, and I will meet you for a drink another day. After Lin Yu's conditioning of Karyashiki in the past few days, he finally recovered. What are you going to do now? Mole Chungshuang has also succeeded as the captain of the 11th Division. Are you going to stay in our 7th Division? Lin Yu launched a recruitment campaign for Karyashiki. Thank you Captain Lin Yu for saving my life. I have thought about it during this period. I plan to go to Hueco Mundo to find my best friend Asido. He conquered Hueco Mundo and his whereabouts are unknown. I will not stay in the 7th Division. This is my choice. I hope Captain Lin Yu won't be offended. I will definitely comply with your orders in the future. Karyashiki declined Lin Yu's invitation. Lin Yu and Karyashiki talked all night. No one knew what the two talked about. The next day, Karyashiki went to Hueco Mundo. Chapter 51. He was too lazy before and almost failed to save Karyashiki. Lin Yu began to seriously think about the plot of Shinigami. He realized that he had to be more vigilant and focused and not let something like this happen again. This time I went to the 8th Division to meet Yadomaru Lisa, which means that important characters such as Hiriko Shinji, Hiyori Surugaki, Arikata Hakigen, Rokakar Kenishi, Aikawa Ratake, Kuna Mashiro, Hobashi Rojuro and other important characters are all here. Already on stage. These characters are key players in the story, and their appearance will promote the development of the plot. The members of the masked army are all here, but Lin Yu doesn't have a high opinion of their strength. Except for Hiriko Shinji, who is somewhat powerful, everyone else seems a little not strong enough in his eyes. Especially the 6-car boxing West is simply a typical unit of measurement. People will use, "How many cars do you have?" to describe the combat power of others. This kind of evaluation shows that Rukuchu Kenshi's strength is relatively weak, and it has become a standard for measuring the strength of other characters. In addition to the masked military strength, Lin Yu speculated that Urahara Kazuki, a sinister guy, might have emerged in the secret mobile force. Now Yoruichi Shihoin is taking over as the captain of the second team. Her grandfather Shihoin, Tingzan, even joked with me. Time flies so fast. Hikafuna Kiryu of the 12th Division is also about to be promoted to the 0th Division, which is also an important development in the plot. As the story progresses, more plots and conflicts will unfold, and Lin Yu begins to think about the future layout. Hairspray Hand Aizen should also appear, but I don't know where he is. His younger brother Tosen should also appear. And that big dog with the helmet, Komamura left. Lin Yu couldn't help but fell into deep thought. He realized that although he was familiar with the plot, it did not mean that he could fully control everything. He needs to have a deeper understanding of the relationships between the characters and be prepared to deal with various situations in advance. At the same time, he also understands that the use of resourcefulness and strategy is crucial when facing complex and ever-changing situations. However, for Lin Yu, layout is not an easy task. He knows that he is not the kind of person who is both wise and brave. Compared with people like Aizen, he has a certain gap in intelligence. Aizen is a powerful and intelligent enemy, and his plans are often well thought out and highly complex. Therefore, Lin Yu felt a little helpless and confused, not knowing how to better cope with future challenges. Really, I'm not a person with both wisdom and courage. I still need someone like Hairspray Hand Aizen to do the layout. Lin Yu scratched his head vigorously, feeling helpless. He knew that he had to think of a way to better deal with the subsequent plot. Think about it again to see if there is anything I missed. After thinking for a long time, Lin Yu still had no clue. I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's go to the 8th Division to find Chun Shui for a drink. I said before that I wanted to have a drink with him. Lin Yu didn't plan to dwell on it anymore and rushed to the 8th Division. When he arrived at the 8th team, Lin Yu opened the door and walked in. He saw that Chun Shui was actually handling team affairs. Hey, Chun Shui, you can also handle team affairs. Where is your vice captain Lisa? Lin Yu said with a smile. When Chun Shui saw that it was Lin Yu who was coming, a smile appeared on his face. Haha, it turns out to be Lin Yu. Come and sit down. Lisa and the others have set up a female Shinigami association and are participating in activities, so I have to handle the team affairs myself. Oh, you think everyone is like you have Hakuensai and Basemon to help you handle team affairs. Lin Yu sat down and took out the jug. Come on, I came here to drink with you today. He shook the jug in his hand as he spoke. Chun Shui looked confused. Oh, drinking. Do you have something on your mind? Could it be that you had a quarrel with Captain Ba Yunjai? Lin Yu shook his head. How is it possible? I have a good relationship with Ba Yunjai. It's not something I'm worried about. I just encountered some things recently and I feel a little powerless. You know, sometimes living for too long is nothing. Good thing, I found that I have lost my goal in life, so I want to ask you for any good life advice. Quote. Chun Shui took a sip of wine and said slowly, if you didn't tell me, I would have almost forgotten. You are a person of the same generation as Mr. He shone, and you have lived a long time. I am not very clear about the goal of life. But I think you don't need to worry too much, just let things take their own course. Sometimes, excessive anxiety will only affect your mood. Lin Yu nodded. Well, you're right. Let nature take its course. If this continues, you may develop depression, haha. Lin Yu, where did Karyashiki go? He didn't return to the 11th division during this period. Did he stay in your 7th division? Chunshui looked at Lin Yu and asked. Lin Yu scratched his head. Tell him, he went to Hueco Mundo. Why did he go to Hueco Mundo? Is it difficult to accept losing to Mole Chungshuang? He is not such a person. Shunsui frowned and said with some doubts. Lin Yu shook his head. He said he went to Hueco Mundo to look for Aceto. Who is Aceto? Lin Yu had never paid attention to this person. He had an impression of the name, but he really couldn't remember who it was. When did it appear? Shunsui suddenly showed a nostalgic expression and said slowly, Aceto, he is a person who fights for Shinigami beliefs and a powerful Shinigami. He is usually taciturn. He doesn't have many friends. He only has me and Karyashiki. Between the two of them, he led some Shinigami to conquer Hueco Mundo before, but there was no news later. He didn't know whether he died in the battle or was lost somewhere in Hueco Mundo. This time, Karyashiki went to Hueco Mundo to confirm him. Is he really dead? Lin Yu nodded, feeling a little curious about this Aceto. Someone who can be remembered by Shunsui and Karyashiki must have something special. Let's go to Hueco Mundo another time to have a look. Sal Apo Luadu has already appeared, and Aizen may have started to cause trouble. He just happened to go to meet Balagang and weigh his strength. After all, he is the king of Hueco Mundo. Of course, this was before Aizen unified Hueco Mundo. Aceto should not be dead. Lin Yu vaguely remembered this name, which proved that he survived until after the plot. The two drank and chatted, and time passed by unconsciously. Night fell, and the stars lit up their way home. Lin Yu said goodbye to Chun Shui and felt much more relaxed. Perhaps, all he needs is a chance to relax and someone to talk to. This night, he found the answer and the way forward. After Lin Yu and Chun Shui had a drink, they finally got some clues. Since there was no good way, let's start with Hueco Mundo and take Ba Yunjai to hang out in Hueco Mundo another day. Lin Yu thought that this time he would go out not only to check out Balagang, but also to look for Karyashiki and Aceto to see who this Aceto was and how he could make friends with Shunsui and Karyashiki. Not ordinary people. Of course, he will not forget to find Nailu. She was a special being, and he hoped to get her and Ba Yunjai to get to know each other, maybe they would become good friends. When Lin Yu returned home, he couldn't wait to give Ba Yunjai a warm hug and tell her that he was back. However, what greeted him was Ba Yunjai's slightly angry words, "You still know how to come back. I thought you died of drunkenness in the 8th division." As she said that, she reached out and grabbed Lin Yu's ear. Lin Yu was a little helpless, but mostly felt happy about Ba Yunjai's concern. Although it hurt a little to have his ears pulled, he knew that this was one of Ba Yunjai's ways of expressing love. So, he responded with a smile, "How could it be? I can't bear to leave you." Then, he gently stroked Ba Yunjai's hand, trying to get her to let go. Fighting and fussing, another day passed like this. "Ba Yunjai, I have something to tell you." Lin Yu sat at the table, secretly observing Ba Yunjai opposite him while eating, thinking about how to speak to her and introduce Nailu to her. No matter how emotionally idiotic he is, he also knows that if he suddenly tells Ba Yunjai that he has met a female friend who has been with him for hundreds of years outside, and the relationship between the two is very close, even to the point where they can be honest with each other, then the consequences can be serious. It would be unimaginable to make Ba Yunjai angry and trigger a family storm. Just imagining that scene makes people shudder. If you have anything to say, just say it. Don't hesitate. Didn't you always say that you will be lenient if you confess and be strict if you resist? Ba Yunjai noticed Lin Yu's strangeness and couldn't help but frown. She stared at Lin Yu's hesitant expression, as if he was constipated, and secretly guessed that there must be nothing good going on. I met a friend in Hueco Mundo, you know. Lin Yu said cautiously. I know, your instant flash combined with his skills, you said that. Keep talking, I'm listening. Ba Yunjai replied expressionlessly. She is a Vastad Daxu. Lin Yu hesitated for a moment and then said it. Huh, continue. Ba Yunjai raised his eyebrows, seemingly not surprised by the news. She's still a woman. Lin Yu's voice became smaller and smaller, as if he had done something wrong. Huh, Ba Yunjai's voice suddenly rose an octave, with obvious anger. When did we meet? She asked. It was the first time I went to Hueco Mundo. Lin Yu lowered his head, not daring to look directly into Ba Yunjai's eyes. Is she beautiful? Ba Yunjai's tone became cold. Well, I think she's pretty and has a pretty good figure. After saying this, Lin Yu instantly regretted it and wanted to give himself a slap in the face. Lin Yu, you have become more capable. Let me see if I don't break your legs today. Ba Yunjai slapped his hand on the dining table, making the dishes and chopsticks jump. Lin Yu immediately threw the bowl away and knelt on the ground. My wife, listen to me, we are just ordinary friends. He begged for mercy, with a look of horror on his face. Woman, she is indeed a master of face changing. Ba Yunjai immediately smiled again. Lin Yu, what's her name? Lin Yu observed Ba Yunjai's expression again. He didn't look angry. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, her name is Nilu. Oh, Nilu. Ba Yunjai muttered the name, still with a smile on his face. Why did you think of talking about this today? Lin Yu looked at Ba Yunjai's smile and felt a little guilty, but he still said bravely, are you not angry anymore? I want to take you to Hueco Mundo. I heard that Balagang in Hueco Mundo is very strong. I want to let's go and weigh it up. It'll be just in time for you and Nilu to get to know each other, and by the way, look for Karyashiki and his friend Asido. The smile on Ba Yunjai's face did not change at all, and he still asked with a smile, oh. So that's it. Then why did you take us to see them? Lin Yu scratched his head. Well, actually, I didn't think too much about it. I just thought that we are all friends and we can get together. And Nilu really wants to meet you. Ba Yunjai nodded. Okay, in that case, let's go together. But don't cause any trouble then. Lin Yu nodded quickly. Don't worry, I promise I won't cause any trouble. After saying that, he was secretly glad that Ba Yunjai was not angry, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. It's a pity that Lin Yu doesn't know what the calm before the storm is, otherwise he wouldn't talk about it if he were killed. After the meal, the two of them set off for Hueco Mundo with their own thoughts. Lin Yu, Hueco Mundo is so big and deserted, how are we going to find Nilu? You don't have to worry about this. I have contact information with her. Lin Yu was still proud of his cleverness and couldn't even cry later. Ba Yunjai still smiled. My husband is smart and has left his contact information, so let's go find her. Lin Yu turned on the communicator and after getting in touch with Nilu, he took Ba Yunjai and rushed in the direction of Nilu. Soon, they saw Nilu's figure. Nilu was wearing a white combat uniform, and the tight-fitting clothes outlined her perfect figure. Nilu! Lin Yu shouted excitedly. Nilu turned around, and when she saw Lin Yu, a surprised smile appeared on her face. Then her eyes fell on Ba Yunjai next to him, her eyes full of curiosity. Lin Yu, who is this? Nilu asked softly, seeming to be very curious about this strange woman. However, before Lin Yu could answer, Ba Yunjai suddenly made an uncharacteristic move. She hugged Lin Yu's arm and eagerly said, Nilu, right. I am Lin Yu's wife, my name is Ba Yunjai, I'm glad to meet you. After saying that, a happy smile filled her face, as if she was announcing her relationship with Lin Yu to the world. When Nilu heard this, her face was a little surprised, but she still smiled and greeted Ba Yunjai. Hello, nice to meet you, I am Nilu. Ba Yunjai nodded slightly and began to look at Nilu up and down. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, but he soon regained his composure, with the faint smile still hanging on the corner of his mouth. As expected, as Lin Yu said, she's a very beautiful girl. At this time, no matter how new Lin Yu is, he knows that something is wrong and must not start a fight. I saw you for the first time today. I have never heard Lin Yu mention you before. When did you get married? Nilu also joked for some reason. Ba Yunjai hugged Lin Yu's hand and suddenly pinched his arm. We haven't held the wedding yet, but we have done everything we need to do. Isn't that right, Lin Yu? Lin Yu grinned in pain. Yes, we have done everything we should do. You must be very strong to be Lin Yu's friend. Let's try to compete. Ba Yunjai let go of Lin Yu's hand and pulled out his Zanpakuto. Come on, I also want to know how strong you are as his wife and whether you are qualified enough. Nailu also pulled out her Zanpakuto. It really started to fight. Whatever he wanted came. Lin Yu felt that his mouth must have been opened. Lin Yu felt panicked as he watched the two women in front of him draw their swords at each other. He quickly stepped forward to try to dissuade him, but Ba Yunjai and Nailu glared at him at the same time, making him immediately step aside in fright. Lin Yu, don't worry, we are just sparring, we won't hurt each other. Ba Yunjai said to Lin Yu gently. Yes, Lin Yu, I also want to see how capable she is. Nailu looked at Ba Yunjai provocatively. Lin Yu sighed helplessly and thought, now, it's okay, two women are having a drama, I'd better find a place to hide as soon as possible. At this moment, Bonsai and Nailu released their Zanpakutos at the same time and attacked each other. Their movements were quick and agile, and the Zanpakuto in their hands shone with a cold light, making people shudder. Lin Yu's eyes widened and he watched the battle nervously. He prayed secretly in his heart, hoping that the two of them would not be hurt. However, he did not dare to intervene rashly and could only wait anxiously for the result. As time goes by, the battle between Ba Yunjai and Nailu becomes more and more intense. Their moves come and go, and it's hard to tell the winner. Lin Yu was dazzled by what he saw, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart, as expected of my wife and friend, they are both so powerful. You can also blink. After the two of them fought against each other and separated, Ba Yunjai watched Nailu use blink. He turned his head and glared at Lin Yu again, but found that Nailu used blink. Finally, my anger subsided a little. Hado number 4, White Thunder. Ba Yunjai opened the distance and cast Kido. Nailu was also not to be outdone. Hado number 4, White Thunder. Ba Yunjai's expression changed again as his anger subsided a little. You know how to Kido. Yes, this is what Lin Yu taught me. Nailu still didn't think it was a big deal. Lin Yu, honey, I'm here. Lin Yu quickly raised his hand. Lin Yu responded with a white thunder. Murdered my husband. Bai Lei hit Lin Yu, who did not dare to dodge. Although the power was not strong, it shocked him so much that his hair stood up. Lin Yu usually strikes others with lightning, but today he was struck by lightning. The key is that he didn't dare to hide. He was so wrong that he almost cried. Slowly, after a hard fight, both sides were about to get really angry. Just when Lin Yu thought the situation would get out of control, Ba Yunjai and Nailu stopped at the same time. They looked at each other breathlessly, their eyes full of admiration. Haha, yes, you are very powerful. Ba Yunjai took the lead and said to Nailu with a smile. You're not bad either. It seems I have to practice hard. Nailu responded. Seeing that the two had stopped fighting, Lin Yu hurried over and asked with concern, are you okay? We're fine, we're just a little tired. Ba Yunjai and Nailu replied in unison. Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, that's good, don't fight anymore in the future. If you don't do well in fighting and killing, if you have anything to do, just have a hot pot meal. If one meal doesn't work, then just 2 meals. Who told you to hide such a beautiful wife from me? Nailu looked at Lin Yu complainingly. Hey, didn't I bring Ba Yunjai to meet you? Lin Yu scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. Ba Yunjai couldn't help but feel jealous as he watched Lin Yu and Nailu playing around. She walked up to Lin Yu, held his arm, and said softly, Lin Yu, this will never happen again. If you let me know that you have any women, friends, or friends that I don't know about, then I will give you to you. Cut it. Looking at Ba Yunjai's serious eyes, Lin Yu trembled. For the sake of his own happiness in the rest of his life, Ba Yunjai accepted whatever he said. Yeah, I understand. Lin Yu nodded quickly and agreed. Lin Yu, how long has it been since you came to Hueco Mundo again? Do you miss me? Nailu heard the smell of gunpowder in Ba Yunjai's words, and after speaking, she deliberately came over to hold Lin Yu's other hand. He rubbed his arms against her breasts. Nailu, stop joking. Ba Yunjai will chop me up alive. Nailu's behavior made Lin Yu frightened for a while, and he quickly looked at Ba Yunjai, as if to say, honey, what are you looking at me for? I didn't do it either. It's really not my fault. Single quote. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. What are you doing here in Hueco Mundo? I want to know the current situation in Hueco Mundo. Some time ago, there was a Vastad Daxu named Salapalo who invaded Soul Society. I am here to investigate this matter. Sar Apollo, he is a member of Zai Palace. The leader of Zai Palace is Balagang. He calls himself the king of Hueco Mundo. According to the information I got, he currently has Picaro and Dorudo under his command. Ni Alessandro del Sacaccio, Taruti Sandovich, Guntenbane Mosqueda and Sal Apollo. The king of Hueco Mundo. The last person who claimed to be the king of Quincy has been killed. I wonder if this Balagang is worthy of this honorific title. Lin Yu actually knows very well that the current Balagang himself can do it. Hang him up and beat him, but you have to find a reason at least. It is important for a teacher to have a reputation, otherwise there is no difference between it and a blind man. Nilu, didn't you join Zai Palace? Me, Balagang sent someone to recruit me before. I didn't like joining any organization, so I refused. So easy. That's not true. After I refused, Balagang sent someone to kill me. Unfortunately, the person who came was not strong enough and was hacked to death by me. Later, he did not kill me personally. This was all thanks to the Kido you taught me, and Flash. Hearing this, Lin Yu couldn't help but feel a sense of emotion in his heart. It seems that the plot has really changed. Nilu did not join Zai Palace as in the original work, so naturally she will not become one of the Espadas. In this way, she also avoided conflicts with Sal Apollo and Neutrogilda, and her mask would not be broken due to a sneak attack. However, Lin Yu felt a little sorry when he thought of Nilu's two subordinate officers, Peishi Kadish and Don Shaka Bilstein. I wonder if Nilu will have a chance to meet them again. Although the two guys are a bit funny, they are loyal to Nilu and will never leave her after she is injured. I hope that one day in the future, Nilu will be able to meet them again. Lin Yu touched his chin. Nilu, do you know the location of Zai Palace? I know. What do you want to do? I want to test the strength of the king of Hueco Mundo. If it is a parallel import, I will chop him to death, and also chop to death the man named Sal Apollo. Lin Yu opened his mouth with the intention of hacking to death the two of them. In order to prevent Nilu's tragedy from happening again, Lin Yu decided to hack Sal Apollo to death directly. As for Nutra, no trace of him has been found yet, but if he encounters him, Lin Yu will kill him without hesitation. You don't want to avenge me, do you? In fact, Balagan doesn't have much advantage in my hands, and he is very powerful. If I go all out, I may not be able to defeat him. Although you are powerful, who knows, does he have any ultimate killer move? Hearing that Lin Yu planned to challenge Balagang, Nilu subconsciously worried about his safety. After hearing this, Lin Yu staggered and said, Nilu, please stop talking. Ba Yunjai is still here. If you keep talking, it won't be me who kills Balagang. You have to burn incense for me. Lin Yu, since Balagang once bullied Sister Nilu, let's go to him to settle the score and kill him. Ba Yunjai said angrily. No, you two were fighting fiercely just now, why have you suddenly become good sisters now? It's really hard for women to understand. Lin Yu couldn't help but sigh. However, as soon as he finished saying this, his ears were grabbed and twisted by Ba Yunjai and Nilu at the same time. Don't worry, Sister Nilu, tell me, where is Zai Palace? We will go there right now. Ba Yunjai said seriously. He had already made up his mind to help Nilu get revenge. Hearing this, Lin Yu frowned and said, Bayanjai, just the two of us can take revenge. Nilu can forget it. Why? Ba Yunjai asked puzzledly. Lin Yu explained. Nilu is also a hollow after all. If people know that a hollow united with Shinigami to fight the king of Hueco Mundo, it will have a bad impact on her. However, Nilu shook her head, it doesn't matter. I'm used to being alone anyway. Others can say whatever they like. Let's go together. Her eyes were full of determination. Lin Yu looked at Nilu and asked again, have you really thought about it? Nilu, doing this may bring you a lot of trouble. Nilu nodded, well, I've decided, let's go together. There was determination in her voice. Lin Yu and the others headed to Zai Palace. Bale Gang, Lin Yu, are here. In Zai Palace, everything was quiet, except for Balagang sitting on the throne, occasionally snoring slightly. Suddenly, Picaro hurried over, breaking the tranquility. King, I noticed that Niliel's spiritual pressure is approaching in the direction of Zai Palace. His voice was full of tension and anxiety. Balagang lazily raised his head, as if he had not yet fully awakened from his sleep. Niliel, is she the only one? His tone seemed a little dismissive. No, I also sensed another spiritual pressure that was not weaker than hers next to her, but it was very unfamiliar. Picaro frowned even more tightly. HMPH, just 2 people dare to come to Zai Palace. They are too confident. The corner of Balagang's mouth raised slightly, revealing a sneer. At this time, Taruti volunteered to stand up. Your Majesty, let me deal with them. Her eyes were firm and decisive, full of desire to fight. However, Balagang waved his hand to signal her not to be impulsive. Forget it, Taruti, you are no match for Nelly, not to mention she has found a helper. Let me take action myself. He stood up, exuding a powerful aura. After saying that, Balagang slowly walked down from the throne and walked towards the gate of Zai Palace. His steps were steady and powerful, with incomparable majesty in every step. Picaro and Taruti behind him followed him silently. Balagang came to the entrance of the palace and looked at the 3 figures gradually approaching in the distance. He crossed his arms, a trace of contempt flashing in his eyes. Niliel, you really don't have a long memory. Why, are you here to beg for mercy this time? As soon as Balagang finished saying this, he realized something was wrong. There were 2 people next to Nelly, and they were Shinigami. Among them, the person wearing the captain's uniform showed no spiritual pressure fluctuations. His pupils shrank. That Shinigami either used some special method to cover up his own spiritual pressure or he is a strong man that he has to look up to. As for the speculation of ordinary people, it is completely unfounded. Can ordinary people be Shinigami? Can they also be the captain? Do you think people from the Soul Society are idiots? Balagang, stop talking nonsense. I'm here to chop you to death today. Nilielu shouted angrily, and Ba Yunjai also released strong spiritual pressure. Lin Yu, you don't need to take action for the time being. Let Nilu and I test his strength. Ba Yunjai and Nilu rushed towards Balagang with knives. Lin Yu took out a handful of melon seeds from somewhere, and sat on the ground without any image, preparing to eat the melon seeds and watch the show. After feeling the spiritual pressure of the 2 of them, Balagang raised the corner of his mouth slightly. You 2 want to defeat me. It's simply a dream. Before he finished speaking, he took action instantly and struck with a powerful false flash towards Nelielu and Ba Yunjai. Upon seeing this, Neliel and Ba Yunjai immediately sidestepped and used Kido to fight back. Hados 33, Blue Fire Falling. The King, the mask of flesh and blood, all things, flying high with wings, the thing bearing the name of human beings. Truth and temperance, the wall of the dream of knowing no sin, only stand on it. To the blue fire pendant that followed the chant shot towards Balagang. The 2 sides were going back and forth, refusing to give in to each other, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. Balagang gradually lost his patience and decided to use all his strength to fight quickly. I saw him clasping his hands together and chanting a spell in his mouth. The surrounding void began to twist, and a black beam of light fell from the sky, heading straight towards Nelielu and Ba Yunjai. Ba Yunjai and Nilu have such a tacit understanding. They release the blue fire pendant at the same time. If they release the double lotus blue fire pendant at the same time, I don't know how powerful it will be. Lin Yu sat on a stone aside and watched the battle leisurely, while eating melon seeds. There was a trace of expectation and curiosity in his eyes, and he seemed to be full of interest in this battle. However, at this moment, a discordant voice broke his tranquility. That eating Shinigami, you've had enough of watching the show, I'm here to kill you. Listen up, I am the great Pika. Lin Yu frowned and turned to look at the source of the sound displeased. He saw a naughty kid with something like headphones on his head walking towards him, holding a zanpakuto in his hand, with a fierce glint in his eyes. Noise, bother me to eat melon. I don't care who you are. Are you returning a pickup? I'm returning Wuling Hongguang. Lin Yu stood up impatiently, holding the zanpakuto tightly in his hand. There was a hint of disdain and ridicule in his tone, as if he didn't take the other person seriously at all. Go to hell, Picaro roared angrily, waving his zanpakuto toward Lin Yu. However, his movements seemed extremely slow in Lin Yu's eyes. The corners of Lin Yu's mouth raised slightly, revealing a sneer. He dodged lightly and avoided Pikaro's attack. Then, he quickly waved the Zanpakuto in his hand, and a sharp slash penetrated Pikaro's body. The naughty boy Pikaro's eyes widened and he looked down at his severed body in disbelief. He fell to the ground before he even had time to release his Zanpakuto. Wouldn't it be better to watch the show? If you have to look for trouble, now it's better. I can't watch the show anymore and my life is gone. Lin Yu said coldly, then turned around and sat back on the stone, continuing to eat melon seeds. When the Picaros behind saw Lin Yu slashing the Picaro with headphones with one knife, they instantly showed a look of horror and stopped the urge to take action. Balagang, who was fighting against Ba Yunjai, saw Picaro killed by Lin Yu with one blow, but still didn't feel his spiritual pressure, so he couldn't help but feel that he was in big trouble. Although the strength of a single Picaro is not too strong, it is not that he can be killed instantly with one knife. Who is that captain-level Shinigami? His strength is too terrifying. Balagang secretly marveled in his heart. The fight between the three was deadlocked, and he had already begun to think about retreating. I saw him start to fight and retreat, trying to find an opportunity to escape. Niliel, where is your honor as a hollow? You actually teamed up with two Shinigami to deal with me. Aren't you afraid that the people in Hueco Mundo will laugh at you? Balagang tried to use words to stimulate Nelly, hoping that she would give up. Fight with yourself. In this way, against the remaining female Shinigami, she still has hope of winning. However, Nailu remained unmoved and continued to attack him firmly. At this moment, Lin Yu suddenly raised his hand. Interrupt me, it's someone. I didn't do anything to you. The virtual one who died just now was the one who disturbed me from watching the show and was just looking for death. I said it's over, you continue. Hearing Lin Yu's words, Balagang was shocked. He originally thought that Lin Yu would attack him directly, but now it seems that the other party does not want to participate in this battle. This made him feel a little confused, but at the same time he was relieved. After all, if Lin Yu really joined the battle, he would definitely not survive today. Since that Shinigami said he won't take action, let Taruti and I take action against Nelly and this female Shinigami. As long as we don't attack the Shinigami who is watching the battle, let's have a Picaro notify at the same time. Dorudoni, Guntenbayan and Sarapallo, this way we can have 5 people against 3 people. Even if we lose, we won't die. Balagang thought for a while and immediately faced off against one. The women Picaro and Taruti gave the order. Lin Yu didn't react much to Picaro who left and Taruti who took action. He just narrowed his eyes slightly and sneered at the corner of his mouth. Even if Balagang and Taruti team up to fight against Ba Yunjai and Nailu, so what? He thought to himself, his eyes shining with confidence. Lin Yu is well aware of the strength of Balagang and Taruti, but he also knows clearly that Ba Yunjai and Nailu are not easy to deal with. Especially Nailu. She got Lin Yu's Flash and Kido, which greatly improved her combat effectiveness. And Bonsai is the captain of the first-generation Gote 13th team. Do you understand this valuable content? However, this is not the most critical factor. What really made Lin Yu confident in this battle was the trace of immortal power hidden in Ba Yunjai's body. Once this mysterious force breaks out, it will produce amazing power. Lin Yu believed that as long as Ba Yunjai could exert this magical power, Balagang would definitely face a situation of certain death. Thinking of this, Lin Yu couldn't help but smile proudly. He quietly looked at the battle situation in front of him, expecting Ba Yunjai to show his true strength and teach Balagang a heavy lesson. The fierce fighting continued, and before long, Picaro arrived at the battlefield with Dorudoni, Guntenbain and Sal Apollo. Oh, the help is here, so what? Lin Yu still couldn't be interested. At this moment, a sultry man with short pink hair, glasses, and golden pupils took the lead and attacked Ba Yunjai and the other two. Lin Yu, who was eating melon and watching a show, narrowed his eyes. This image must be Sal Apollo. Looking at Sal Apollo's wretched expression, Lin Yu suddenly remembered the location of his void hole and the ability to return the blade, and couldn't help but feel a chill, and then his body trembled. This guy is really perverted, there's a hole in that place, and that ability that can actually turn enemies into liquid. No, I can't think about it anymore. I'm going to vomit if I think about it anymore. Lin Yu felt sick in his heart and decided that it would be better not to think about Sal Apollo. However, when he saw Sal Apollo's eyes staring at Ba Yunjai and Nilu with malicious intent, Lin Yu suddenly became furious. Disgusting guy, kill him first, how dare you use that disgusting thing. He looked at my wife and Nilu with such eyes that he must be killed and even the ashes must be thrown away. As he said this, Lin Yu moved and rushed towards Sal Apollo like a ghost. However, before Lin Yu could take action, Sal Apollo sensed the danger, his face changed, and he quickly retreated. He had heard from Picaro that this man was terrifyingly strong. Although he didn't know why he was targeting him, he didn't want to die here. Sip, evil concubine, Sal Apollo shouted, and his body instantly turned into a blade. A dazzling purple light burst out from his body, turning into a powerful virtual flash, and rushed straight towards Lin Yu with a fierce momentum. Wang Shu's flash. This guy is quite sensible, so he just activated his skills. Lin Yu raised the corner of his mouth slightly, quickly gathered a powerful force in his hand, and used the round gate fan. I saw that the round gate fan was like a strong shield, steadily blocking the attack of Apollo. However, when Lin Yu looked at Sal Apollo again, he couldn't help but frown. After returning to the sword, Apollo's whole body expanded and exploded, showing a brand new posture. His lower body turned into countless tentacles, like a giant octopus. These tentacles are constantly squirming, making people feel frightened when they see them. Then, the tentacles gradually condensed and disappeared, replaced by a pair of feet and a long hem of clothes. And on his back, 4 wings sprouted, with unknown things hanging on the wings. What's even more surprising is that there are colorful lines around his eyes, like the eyes of a devil. Lin Yu felt his stomach churn and almost vomited. Disgusting, it's so disgusting, gate of opening, it's so disgusting. He cursed while suppressing the discomfort. Lin Yu decided to take away this disgusting guy with one blow. As soon as he put his hand on the Zanpakuto, he immediately changed his mind. He didn't want to kill Sal Apollo with the purple sword, don't get my sword dirty. The thundering carriage, the gap of the spinning wheel, this thing has light clustered and divided into 6, Bakutos 61, 6 sticks of light. Lin Yu raised his hand to restrain Sal Apollo with 6 sticks of light. How is it possible that a mere Bakuto number 61 can trap me? It shouldn't be, my strength is definitely not something that this kind of Bakuto can trap. Sal Apollo twisted his body desperately, trying to break free from the restraints, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get rid of that powerful force. Are you going to die here today? I still have so many abilities that I haven't used yet. I'm not willing to do it. His heart was full of unwillingness and anger. He didn't want to die like this. He wanted to live. He wanted to keep fighting. Lin Yu raised one hand, and red balls of light continued to appear around him. The end of the Senju, the dark hand that cannot be touched, the archer in the sky that cannot be reflected, the road of shining brilliance, fanning the wind of fire, gather together at this time. There is no need to be confused, just follow my instructions, the light bomb, the 8 bodies, the 9 scriptures, the quick treasure, the big wheel, the great turret, lead the bow into the distance, and dissipate away brightly. Senju Jiao Tian Tai Pao. After Lin Yu chanted, Hado number 91 shot towards Sal Apollo. His position exploded instantly, and a mushroom cloud rose into the air. Just kill a Sal Apollo and use the Hado number 91 after the chant. I don't know when, Ba Yunjai and the others stopped fighting. Looking at this scene, both sides' heads were shut down. Who made him look at you with that lewd expression just now? His return to the sword also made me feel sick. I said I would spread his ashes, and I will do what I said. Lin Yu said seriously. Hearing this, Ba Yunjai felt a little moved, but mostly speechless. You didn't turn him into ashes, you just evaporated his whole body, leaving no trace at all. What's the difference? He's dead anyway. Lin Yu shrugged. At this time, Bailgang and others also came to their senses and stared at Lin Yu nervously. Sir, didn't you say you wouldn't take action? I have already said that he lusted after my wife, so I want to kill him. As for you, what should I think about? It seemed that Lin Yu still wanted to take action. Balagang doesn't plan to hide it anymore. Decay, the skeleton emperor, after his death, he wore a multi-layered crown, his face and body turned into a skull shape, he wore cocked boots, and his whole body was covered with black flames. There was a long silver chain hanging from the corner of the crown, similar to the European traditional Shinigami. Image all the chains of death. Sigh of death. Balagang opened his hand wide, and the breath of death hit his face. Everything around him began to age rapidly and turned into a wasteland. To show respect, I'd better release the Zanpakuto, even though it's not necessary. Lin Yu finally pulled out his Zanpakuto. The latitude and longitude of the sky, the sun, the moon and the stars, call the wind and rain, the thunder and lightning command, and serve the ghosts and gods. Liberate, Zui sword. The breath of death came like a tide, but stopped 3 feet away in front of Lin Yu, as if it had encountered an invisible wall and could not move forward an inch. Lin Yu's eyes were firm, and he suddenly pulled out the sword in his hand. The blade of the sword flashed with cold light and carried a sharp sword aura. He took a step forward, and powerful coercion emanated from him, sweeping around like a storm. The breath of death was forced back under this pressure and slowly flowed back in the direction of Balagang. Lin Yu restrained his spiritual pressure and formed a protective shield outside his body. This shield enveloped him like a bubble, resisting the surrounding death energy. Balagang looked at the death energy flowing back in shock. He realized that if measures were not taken in time, the death energy might backfire on him. So, he decided to withdraw his ability to avoid being harmed. Lin Yushin stepped forward, and the Zui sword made contact with Balagang's axe of destruction, making a crisp impact sound. At this moment, Lin Yu softly uttered 2 words, "Seal the demon." His voice was low and powerful, as if it contained endless majesty. As the words fell, the purple sword in his hand flashed with purple light. At the same time, Balagang felt a powerful force surge into his heart, and his body trembled involuntarily. He was horrified to find that his liberated state had been forcibly lifted and his abilities had been sealed. "It's over, I'm going to die here today." Balagang looked ashen after being knocked back to his original shape. The imagined death did not come, and Balagang expressed confusion, "Aren't you going to kill me? Did I say I would kill you? It seems I didn't." Bakudo number 4, this rope. Lin Yu tied up Balagang with Kido. Then he was hung on the gate of Zai Palace and beaten violently. "I said, I will hang you up and beat you. Even if Uranus Lousy comes, he can't save you. Bianjai, Nilu, come and try it, it's so good." Lin Yu greeted the 2 of them. The remaining people in Zai Palace were shocked. The king of Zai Palace was hung up and beaten. After a violent beating, he said, "Balagang, I said I won't kill you, but you took action against me. Now hand over your mark. You can choose to die or surrender." With a bitter look on his face, Balagang said, "Submit, just surrender, it's better to die than to live." He painfully handed over his mark to Lin Yu. "Balagan, please remember that there may be Shinigami coming to Hawako Mundo in the future. If you are not an opponent, you can contact me. After all, you are now my servant." After taking care of Balagang, Lin Yu and the others left Zai Palace and continued to wander around Hawako Mundo, looking for Karya Shiki and Aceto. "Nilu, this is the mark of Balagang. I leave it to you." Lin Yu handed the mark in his hand to Nilu. Nilu took the mark and asked with some confusion, "Give this to me." She didn't quite understand why Lin Yu would give her such an important thing. Lin Yu smiled and explained, "It's up to you to make the decision about Hawako Mundo. If you can't handle it, please contact me again. You have seen my strength just now. Now I don't need this kind of thing at all." He believes that Nilu is more suitable to be in charge of Hawako Mundo's affairs, and he does not intend to stay in Hawako Mundo for a long time. If something happens to Nilu, Balagang and others can become a powerful fighting force. Nilu nodded to express her understanding. She knew that Lin Yu's strength had exceeded her imagination, and she really didn't need to rely on Balagang's power now. She said gratefully, "That's right, Lin Yu, your strength has improved so fast. When we first met, we were almost tied. Now it's reached the point where I want to look up to you. I know you are very strong, but I didn't expect it to be so ridiculously strong. In this case, I won't be polite and I will accept the mark." Lin Yu looked at Nilu with a smile, feeling secretly happy in his heart. He believes that Nelu has the ability to manage Hawako Mundo and will use the power of Balagang and others when necessary. He has full confidence in Nilu. After all, he is his favorite friend. "Honey, I want to teach Nailu the Flash 2.0, do you think? Lin Yu looked at Ba Yunjai with a flattering look and said, Flash 2.0, is this a newly developed version? After hearing this word, Nailu's eyes lit up, and then she looked at Lin Yu, muttering to herself, okay, you kid, you secretly study the new version behind my back. Teaching can be taught. After Ba Yunjai thought for a moment, he nodded slowly in agreement. Honey, you're the best, give me a kiss. When Lin Yu heard this, he was overjoyed and quickly moved forward to kiss Ba Yunjai. Oh, I haven't finished speaking yet. However, Ba Yunjai suddenly interrupted him, with a sly smile on his face, and then said, but you don't need to teach me, I will teach Sister Nailu myself. When Lin Yu heard this, he was dumbfounded and screamed in his heart. He was afraid that his little thoughts would have been seen through by his wife. Then what should I do? Lin Yu asked guiltily after being caught by Xiao Juju. You go find Karya Shiki and Asido, and I'll go with Sister Nailu and ask her to take me around Hueco Mundo. It's a happy decision. Ba Yunjai has already thought of the next purpose. Then what will you do if something happens to you? Lin Yu still refused to give up. Ba Yunjai glared at him. Something happened. What happened? You have subdued the strongest person in Hueco Mundo, not to mention my strength. Do you think there will be any danger? Go and find someone. Oh, Lin Yu, who was scolded for a while, said honestly, then I'll go, you and Nailu get along well. Get out, don't disturb my heart-to-heart talk with Sister Nailu. Ba Yunjai urged Lin Yu to leave. Lin Yu looked at the backs of Ba Yunjai and Nailu. My wife doesn't love me anymore. Life is so helpless. Let's think about how to find Karyashiki and Asido. Where will they be? Lin Yu was walking slowly and aimlessly, while his thoughts were wandering, thinking about Karyashiki and the place where Asido might appear. Since Asido is here to defeat the Hollows, the most likely place to appear is the Great Hollow Forest. After all, there are the largest number of hollows there. Lin Yu whispered to himself, his eyes suddenly lit up, and the decision was made, head to the Great Void Forest to find out. Fortunately, I left the specific location of the Great Void Forest before, otherwise it would be really difficult to find this place. Lin Yu said happily. However, when he finally arrived at the Great Void Forest, new problems faced him. This Daxu Forest is so vast. It's not easy to find people here. Lin Yu frowned, feeling a little tricky. I have no choice but to radiate the power of the stars while walking. Fortunately, I saved Karyashiki last time and I have memorized his Reiatsu aura, so I won't be blinded. Lin Yu sighed helplessly, and then started to take action. He released the power of his stars and let them spread in the Great Void Forest. At the same time, he carefully observed the surrounding movements, hoping to find some clues or attract the attention of Asido and others. After a period of searching, Lin Yu really felt the spiritual pressure of Karyashiki, and there was a fluctuation of spiritual pressure around him. Sure enough, my judgment was correct. Lin Yu rushed to the location of Karyashiki. Karyashiki and Asido were resting around a bonfire when they saw a figure rushing towards their position. They could vaguely see the person wearing a Death Tyrant suit. The two people who were about to hold their swords on guard relaxed their vigilance. However, they both saw the figure but did not notice the fluctuation of the spiritual pressure of the coming person. Hey, Karyashiki, you gave me a good meal. The one next to you is Asido. Lin Yu greeted him from a distance. Asido looked at Karyashiki with a puzzled look on his face. Do you know this person? Hearing this voice, Karyashiki also reacted. Lin Yu, the captain of the 7th Division, he saved my life. I don't know why he appeared in Hueco Mundo. It's true that we didn't notice what he said. Fluctuations in spiritual pressure are also normal. He is very strong. Is he the captain of the 7th team? How strong is he? Karyashiki touched his chin and gave his answer. How strong? Maybe about the same as Captain Yamamoto. Asido narrowed his eyes. Is he as strong as the captain? Why haven't I heard of him in the Gote 13 before? It is said that Captain Lin Yu had an accident before and disappeared for hundreds of years. At that time, we were active in the Gote 13. I don't know the specific situation. The person who can save your life must be a good person. After listening to Karyashiki's words, Asido had a general impression of Lin Yu. While the two were communicating, Lin Yu was already approaching. Why did Captain Lin Yu come to Hueco Mundo? I haven't had much to do recently. Ba Yunjai and I came to Hueco Mundo for a trip. Lin Yu said with a smile. Ah, the two were speechless. Then why are you alone, Captain Ba Yunjai? She is walking around Hueco Mundo with a friend. Hueco Mundo is very dangerous. Captain Lin Yu still needs to be careful. Angson, we have hung up the king of Hueco Mundo, Balagang, and beaten him up before, and also killed a few blind ones. Hueco Mundo is very safe. After listening to Lin Yu's words, the two of them hung up Balagang and beat him up. It was too outrageous. Now that there is no danger in Hueco Mundo, do you want to go back to Soul Society with me, Karyashiki? The two of them thought about it for a while, and after looking at each other, Aceto gave the answer, thank you Captain Lin Yu for your kindness, we will not go back to Soul Society. Although the biggest threat to Hueco Mundo has been resolved, the invasion of Soul Society almost all the voids in the world flow out of the Great Void Forest. Unless the entire Great Void Forest is wiped out, the source will never be solved. Quote. Okay, I respect your decision. By the way, if you meet a female Vastad in the future, don't attack her. Her name is Niliel, she is a friend of me and Ba Yunjai, although you may not fight her. Beat her. Since we are friends of Captain Lin Yu, we will not take action. As for his statement that the two of them were not that person's opponent, Kayashiki and the others didn't take it seriously, but it didn't matter. They would understand it when they met in the future. Lin Yu is not talking nonsense. You came back so soon. Didn't you find Karyashiki and Aceto? Ba Yunjai and Nilu asked Lin Yu who came back. I found the two of them in the Great Void Forest, but they don't want to go back to Soul Society. Lin Yu told Ba Yunjai and the others why they didn't want to go back. I've seen that Aceto too. He's really good in strength and can rival an ordinary captain. How about you two? What's the matter? We are good sisters, you don't have to worry about it. Ba Yunjai began to favor Nilu now. It seems that my worries are unnecessary. Ba Yunjai, do you still want to hang out in Hueco Mundo or come back to Soul Society with me? Lin Yu was ready to return to Soul Society. Why don't you stay in Hueco Mundo for a while? Nilu really wanted Lin Yu to stay. I think so too, but after all, I am the captain of the Gote 13. Captain Yamamoto will be scolded if he leaves his post for a long time. Lin Yu looked helpless. You also know that you are the captain. Your team affairs are handled by me and Basemon. Have you ever handled team affairs for a day? You can go back by yourself. I also want to spend more time with Sister Nero. Ba Yunjai doesn't want to go back now. Then I'll go back to Soul Society first. Wife, come back early, I will miss you. Lin Yu said softly, then opened the world traveling door, and the figure disappeared instantly and returned to Soul Society. Lin Yu sat alone in the captain's room. After thinking for a moment, he said to himself, one more thing has been solved. Hueco Mundo has been solved in advance, and Aizen's problem will have less resistance. However, in my opinion, the spiritual pressure perception and sealing ability, even the complete hypnosis, are useless to me. Let him do the rest. After all, in the peaceful era for a long time, the Shinigami will easily become slack. When Aizen caused trouble in Soul Society, the strength of those captains, vice-captains, and chief officers is really worrying. Fighting is the best way to improve your strength. As long as the captain and I are in charge, Soul Society will be in chaos. Can't get up. Lin Yu, who had been unconscious for a long time, decided to visit Captain Hikifuna Kiryu. This is a very powerful person. She was successfully promoted to the Zero Division by virtue of her temporary soul technology. As for the soul, Lin Yu knew nothing about it, so he decided to go and learn. Captain Lin Yu from the 7th Division is here to visit. A member of the 12th Division informed Kiryu Hikifuna, who was doing research, about Lin Yu's visit. Captain Lin Yu, my research here has just reached a critical moment, and I am really busy. Xiao Hiyori, go and help me receive Captain Lin Yu. Remember to respect him. After all, he but our senior. Hikifuna Kiryu warned Hiyori earnestly. In the reception room of the 12th Squadron, Lin Yu was sitting on the mat with no image at all, holding a small and exquisite wine gourd in his hand, and was drinking a small drink leisurely. If it weren't for the big 7 on the captain's haori he was wearing, others would have mistaken him for Kiraku Shunsui when they saw this scene. At this moment, Hiyori gently pushed open the door of the reception room, and when he saw it, he saw a man drinking a small drink leisurely. Is this the captain of the 7th team? I'm afraid he's not an alcoholic. The captain also said that he is a senior and should be respected. Really? This was Hiyori's first impression of Lin Yu. Lin Yu looked at the person who came, the child's appearance and body. She has blonde hair with 2 sky-high pigtails, dark brown eyes, a pair of tiger teeth, a Madara bird on her face, a hairpin with colorful beads on the left side of her hair, a pair of slippers, and a compact death outfit. The Zanpakuto was slung on his back. He secretly pondered, isn't this Hiyori Surugaki? Although Hiyori was dissatisfied with Lin Yu, out of basic etiquette, she still smiled and said hello, I am the deputy captain of the 12th division, Surugaki Hiyori. I am very sorry, our captain is busy with business at the moment and I will welcome you personally, so I can only entertain you. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, and then showed a friendly smile. Ah. It turns out to be the deputy captain Hiyori, what an honor. I am Lin Yu from the 7th team, please take care of me. As he said that, he raised the wine bottle in his hand and gestured to Hiyori, would you like to have a drink together? Hiyori secretly thought to herself, although he is a bit unpleasant to look at, Captain Lin Yu seems quite easygoing and does not put on the airs of the captain, so he should be easy to get along with. But, with the senior I imagine the image is very different. She covered her face with her hands, smiled slightly, and responded, thank you Captain Lin Yu for your kindness, we also have drinks here. Next, Lin Yu and Hiyori fell into an awkward silence. They looked at each other, but they didn't know where to start. They are all thinking about how to break the ice and start a pleasant conversation. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came. The two looked back and saw Kurifune Hikifuna walking quickly. Captain Lin Yu, I've been waiting for a long time. Do you have anything to teach me about the 12th division? Hikifuna Kiryu asked with a smile. Lin Yu looked at the beautiful big-breasted lady in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. It's hard to imagine how she turned into a fat person after she went to the 0 division. But the current Hikifuna Kiryu is indeed very beautiful. He hurriedly said, I don't want to take it as an advice. I just heard that Captain Hikifuna is researching souls, so I came here to learn about it. Oh, that's it. A trace of surprise flashed in Hikifuna Kiryu's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. So, what the senior is talking about should be the righteous soul technology, right? Yes, it is the righteous soul technology. Lin Yu clicked. He nodded and said, I have always been interested in this aspect, but it's a pity that I didn't have the opportunity to learn more about it before. Hikifuna Kiryu smiled and said, actually, Yihan technology is not something mysterious. Its essence is to achieve various wonderful effects through the research and manipulation of souls. For example, we can create the soul of the ability, or injecting the soul into the object to give it life and consciousness. Lin Yu listened with great interest and couldn't wait to ask, then how to operate it specifically. Hikifuna Kiryu explained patiently. This requires an in-depth understanding of the structure and characteristics of the soul, and also requires mastering some special techniques and methods. However, this requires long-term practice and accumulation. Lin Yu nodded thoughtfully. This technique can be learned. It sounds pretty good. Senior, if you are interested, you can come and communicate often in the future. Kiryu Hikifuna enthusiastically invited. Then it's better to be respectful than to obey. Lin Yu replied with a smile. Afterwards, the two chatted about some topics about souls, and Lin Yu learned a lot. Finally, Lin Yu stood up to say goodbye and left the 12th division. Captain, I just heard you call him senior. He looks very young. Hiyori felt very strange when he heard Kurifune Hikifuna calling Lin Yu. Hikifuna Kiryu smiled slightly. He is the same generation as Captain Yamamoto. Do you think he is a senior? Hiyori's eyes widened and she said in disbelief, ah. Then he is also a bad old man. Why does he look so young? Hikifuna Kiryu shook his head. He is not a bad old man. He is a Kaido with the same grandmaster skills as Captain Unohana. It is normal for them to maintain a youthful appearance. But he is quite easy to get along with. At least he is not as rigid as Captain Yamamoto. Hiyori said while secretly looking at Hikifuna Kiryu. She knew that she had just said something inappropriate, but she still couldn't help but want to express her views on Lin Yu. Hiyori, it's not good to speak ill of the captain behind his back. Kiryu Hikifuna gently patted Hiyori's head, with a helpless smile on his face. Hiyori curled her lips and said unconvincingly, I know. But she was thinking that Captain Yamamoto couldn't hear what she said anyway. You can go to the 7th Division some other time if you have nothing to do. Captain Lin Yu's wife is also an amazing person. There is no harm in getting to know her better. Kiryu Hikifuna continued, trying to let Hiyori know more about other teams. Condition. However, Hiyori shook her head and replied firmly, Captain, how could you say that? I don't want to go anywhere, I just want to be with the captain. Her eyes were full of dependence on Hikifuna Kiryu, it makes people feel moved. Hikifuna Kiryu felt warm in his heart, smiled and touched Hiyori's head, and said with emotion, what a silly girl. The atmosphere in the first team meeting room was dignified and serious. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni stood at the head and glanced around the captains present. This captain meeting is holding an important thing to announce. Captain Hikifuna Kiryu of the 12th Division has developed a temporary soul. With the technology inserted into the body, I got the opportunity to be promoted to the Royal Agent Zero Squadron. That's all the content of this meeting. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire conference room burst into congratulations. Congratulations to Captain Hikifuna. Captain Hikifuna, you are so awesome. Hikifuna Kiryu smiled humbly. Thank you everyone, but it's just good luck. It's an unexpected surprise to be appreciated by Team Zero. At this time, Jashiro Yukitaki spoke. Captain Hikifuna, don't be too humble. Your technology has benefited Seoul society. Hikifuna Kiryu smiled and nodded, expressing his gratitude. Lin Yu also congratulated. Captain Yijo, congratulations. Originally, I wanted to ask you about research in this area, but I didn't expect you to leave us so soon. Hikifuna Kiryu replied with a smile. Captain Lin Yu, if you are interested in this aspect, I will ask Hiyori to give you a copy of my research attachment, hoping it will be helpful to you. In addition, after I leave, please take more care of Hiyori's child, she is quite a headache sometimes. Lin Yu quickly agreed. Don't worry, Captain Hikifuna, I will take good care of Hiyori. Hikifuna Kiryu nodded gratefully. Then I'll leave it to you, Captain Lin Yu. Everyone began to leave one after another, but Lin Yu remained in the conference room. Lin Yu, let's go have a drink in my 8th division. Chun Shui had not had a drink with Lin Yu for a long time. Hearing this, Lin Yu turned his head, looked at Chun Shui, and smiled slightly. Chun Shui, thank you for your kindness, but not today. There was a hint of apology in his voice. Chun Shui was startled for a moment, then laughed. Haha, what? Is there anything important? Lin Yu nodded and said, yes, I still have something to discuss with the captain. A trace of doubt flashed in Chun Shui's eyes, but he soon returned to normal. He patted Lin Yu's shoulder and said with a smile, okay, in that case, come and have a drink with me after you're done. After saying that, Chun Shui turned around and walked out of the conference room. Lin Yu watched Chun Shui's back disappearing from the door, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that Chun Shui was a reasonable person and would not be angry because of his rejection. But at this moment, he really needs to talk to the captain alone to discuss some important matters. Lin Yu, you stay because you want to ask about Team Zero. Captain Yamamoto seemed to have guessed the reason why Lin Yu stayed. Captain, the reason for asking Team Zero is that I have other important things to report to you. Let's go to the captain's room to talk. Let's go, I'm curious about what other important things you have. Soon Lin Yu followed Captain Yamamoto to his captain's room. Captain, Team Zero is the guardian of the Spirit King, right? Lin Yu said the mission of Team Zero as soon as he opened his mouth. Captain Yamamoto's eyes flashed. How did you know? Ah, Captain, don't be so excited. Don't think that I drink in my captain's room every day and wander around doing nothing. I have collected a lot of information. Collecting intelligence. This is what the 8th Division should do, right? The captain smiled. Lin Yu continued. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I have my own channels. Not only do I know the existence and mission of Team Zero, I also know that Team Zero now has 5 members including Hikifuna Kiryu, and the leader is Hayasu Bichi. Habe, his Zanpakudo is the first regular sword that the captain was unwilling to tell me before, as well as Nigeo, Kirinji Tenshiro and Shutara Senjumaru who created the Zanpakudo. Quote. After hearing this, the smile on the captain's face disappeared and was replaced by a serious look. He stared at Lin Yu closely and asked, "What else do you know?" Lin Yu hesitated for a moment, but decided to speak frankly. He took a deep breath and replied, "Spiritual King." This word made the captain's face instantly darken, and his eyes were full of vigilance. He suddenly pressed his hand on the zanpakuto at his waist, and at the same time opened a barrier in the captain's room, and asked coldly, "How do you know about this?" "I want any information about the Soul King. It won't be leaked, right?" Lin Yu felt nervous when he saw the captain's reaction. He waved his hand quickly and said eagerly, Hey, Captain, please don't get excited and listen to my explanation." The captain held the zanpakuto tightly, as if ready to take action at any time. Lin Yu hurriedly explained, "Captain, please believe me, I have no ill intentions. I have seen the matter about the Spirit King, but please don't worry, I will never reveal a word to anyone." "You said you saw it." Lin Yu calmed down, then looked at Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni and said, "The captain should know how I woke up from my deep sleep." Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni nodded. "I know, Unohana told me that the power of Uwatch was entangled in your body before, and you only woke up after absorbing this power." Lin Yu nodded slightly. "That is indeed the case, but the key is how I absorb the power." "Captain, don't you know?" Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni shook his head. "This Unohana didn't tell me because she didn't know either." Lin Yu said calmly, "Actually, I didn't learn Bankai at all during that battle 1,000 years ago." Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's eyes narrowed and he looked at Lin Yu in disbelief. "Say it again." Lin Yu repeated, "I said I didn't master Bankai before. I used the power of Shikai in that battle." Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was silent for a moment, then nodded. "So it turns out that it was you who mastered Bankai while you were sleeping to absorb Uwatch's power. So the fact that you can see the Soul King is also your ability after Bankai Bar." "Yes, I, Bankai, saw the essence of the three realms. I saw how the Spiritual King initially divided the three realms and how he was cut into pieces and made into human sticks by the ancestors of the five nobles." Lin Yu said cautiously, because he did not know Yamamoto will the captain go berserk because of this. "I'm sorry, Captain. In fact, I came from time travel. I lied to you all these words, except that I didn't know how to Bankai before. This is Lin Yu's biggest secret, and he will never tell it until he dies. If you don't explode in silence, you will perish in silence." Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni looked at Lin Yu with sharp eyes. His eyes were as hot as burning flames. However, he did not make a decision immediately, but fell into deep thought. Time seemed to have frozen, and the whole room was filled with a tense atmosphere. Finally, Captain Yamamoto broke the silence. His voice was low and powerful. "Lin Yu, tell me, what is your attitude towards Soul Society?" This question was like a thunder piercing the silent night sky, making him stunned. "I can't help but be moved by it." Lin Yu obviously didn't expect the captain to ask such a question. A trace of surprise flashed across his face, but he quickly regained his composure. He straightened his body and replied in a firm tone, "Soul Society. For me, this is not only a place, but also my home. Here are you, my respected Captain Yamamoto, and my lover Ba Yunzai, Captain Kyoryu Shunsui and other friends. They are all important people in my life, and I am willing to do everything to protect them. Therefore, no matter what difficulties and challenges I encounter, I will not hesitate to stand up, to defend the peace and order of Soul Society." Lin Yu's words are full of determination and loyalty, making people feel his deep love for Soul Society. His eyes shone with determination, as if he was proving his sincerity and belief to Captain Yamamoto. The captain was silent for a moment, and then slowly released his hand holding the zanpakuto. He took a deep look at Lin Yu and warned, "Remember, this matter cannot be mentioned again. The existence of the Spirit King is related to the stability of the entire three realms. Once it is leaked, the consequences will be disastrous." Lin Yu nodded repeatedly to express his understanding. He was secretly glad that the captain didn't take action directly. It seems that the secret of the Spirit King is indeed not trivial, so I should be more cautious in what I say in the future. This is over with the Soul King matter. You can go back. The captain was just about to withdraw from the barriers. Lin Yu hurriedly said, wait a minute, I have something else I want to discuss with you. Hearing Lin Yu's words, Captain Yamamoto stopped what he was doing and looked at him doubtfully. Is there anything important that only the two of us know? Lin Yu took a deep breath and said seriously, yes. Captain, what do you think of the current strength of the Gote 13? Captain Yamamoto frowned slightly, thought for a moment and then said slowly, except for a few members of the Gote 13, they are not very powerful. Lin Yu nodded and continued, I recently found something that may be of interest to the captain. Of course, this is related to improving the strength of the Gote 13 team. Captain Yamamoto's eyes lit up, revealing a hint of curiosity. Oh. Let's talk about it. Lin Yu lowered his voice. There is a chief officer in the 5th Division named Aizen Sosuke. I wonder if the captain has heard of it. Captain Yamamoto frowned slightly and said with some confusion, I have heard of this Shinigami, and he is considered an outstanding talent. He once served as a teacher at the Central Spiritual Arts Academy for a period of time, and is now the 3rd seed of the 5th team. Right, but what does this have to do with improving the strength of the Gote 13? Lin Yu chuckled, with a hint of cunning flashing in his eyes, and said, what if I say he wants to rebel? Captain Yamamoto's face changed when he heard this, and he said solemnly, Nani? With his little strength, I can crush him to death with one hand. Lin Yu smiled slightly and said, I would like to ask, have you seen his Zanpakuto Shikai? Captain Yamamoto shook his head and said, I have never seen his Zanpakuto Shikai, but I heard that he always introduces his Zanpakuto Kyoku Suigetsu in front of the students. It seems to be a flowing water type Zanpakuto knife. Lin Yu sighed softly and said, his Zanpakuto is not a flowing water type, but a genjutsu type. Anyone who has seen his Shikai will be impressed by his complete hypnosis. It is not an exaggeration to say that he has become a puppet in his hands. Quote. Captain Yamamoto's eyes became serious and he said in a deep voice, so, he is indeed a potential threat. We need to pay close attention to his movements to ensure that he will not cause harm to the Gote 13. Lin Yu continued, and his strength is more than the level of a chief officer. I have sensed his spiritual pressure. I dare say that no one in Soul Society can beat him now except for a few people left from thousands of years ago. I'm afraid no one can beat him. With his Zanpakuto ability, only you and I can suppress him, and we have to make sure not to be affected by his sword. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni frowned. Complete hypnosis is a troublesome ability. If you don't take into account the members of the Gote 13, just kill them all. I would rather kill the wrong ones than let them go. Lin Yu shook his head slightly. I can use my domain ability to isolate his hypnosis, but the captain may not be able to do anything about it. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni was silent for a moment and then said, well, I really can't help it. But if this happens, wouldn't all the team members be affected by hypnosis? Lin Yu nodded and said with firm eyes, yes, but this is also a challenge we must face. If we don't do this, the plan will not proceed. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni thought for a moment, and then asked, what are your specific plans? Lin Yu took a deep breath and said slowly, I want to let this rebellion go. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni frowned and asked doubtfully, why? Allowing him to rebel will only make the situation worse. Lin Yu smiled slightly and explained, although Aizen's rebellion will cause the bloodshed and sacrifice of the Gote 13, Soul Society has been peaceful for too long, and it is time for them to see blood. War can make people grow. Quote. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni listened quietly, a look of understanding gradually appeared on his face. He sighed and said with emotion, you were right, I am no longer the sword ghost from thousands of years ago. I have softened my heart. Lin Yu patted Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni on the shoulder and comforted, Captain, you don't have to blame yourself. Aren't you afraid that the situation will get out of control and cause irreversible losses? Yamamoto asked in a calm tone. He knew Lin Yu's strength, but facing a powerful enemy like Aizen, he had to consider the worst-case scenario. Lin Yu smiled slightly, his eyes full of confidence. Captain, you should trust my judgment and ability. Although Aizen is indeed a powerful enemy, you and I have enough strength to deal with him. Captain Yamamoto was silent for a moment and then nodded. Okay, I can leave you solely responsible for this incident. But you must remember that you must try your best to reduce the casualties of the Gote 13. Lin Yu nodded gratefully. Thank you, Captain, for your trust. I will do my best to deal with Aizen's problem, but sacrifice is unavoidable. Then, Lin Yu added, in addition, please promise me one thing. No matter what happens next, please don't take action easily. I need you to retain your strength to deal with possible unexpected situations. At the same time, please you believe in my abilities. Captain Yamamoto took a deep look at Lin Yu, and then said slowly, okay, I promise you. However, if the situation really gets out of control, I will take action without hesitation. After all, protecting Soul Society, it's my responsibility. Lin Yu was overjoyed and quickly thanked him. Thank you, Captain, for your understanding and support. I will definitely live up to expectations and solve Aizen's problem perfectly. At the same time, Aizen, who was mingling with the team members in the 5th Division, suddenly felt cold, making him shiver. It's strange, it's not cold today. Why does it feel so cold? Aizen said to himself in confusion. However, he didn't know that his old background had been exposed by Lin Yu. His carefully planned plots, so-called plans and hidden ambitions were all known to Lin Yu. And all this is because of Lin Yu's existence. Aizen originally thought that his plan was perfect and could be hidden from everyone, but he did not expect that Lin Yu, the 6th child, had traveled through time, knew all the plots, and had crushing strength. Now, all his secrets are exposed, like a stripped chick. However, Aizen did not realize that he had fallen into a desperate situation. He still firmly believes that he can achieve his goal, to surpass the power of Shinigami and even replace the Soul King as the king of Soul Society. Lin Yu can tolerate some of Aizen's petty fights and actions, but once Aizen touches his bottom line, Lin Yu will not hesitate to chop him into a stick to replace the Soul King. In this way, the miserable King of Souls can be freed. Thinking of this, Lin Yu couldn't help but sneer at the corner of his mouth. After walking out of the first team, Lin Yu felt that he was in a particularly comfortable mood. This feeling was something he had never felt before. He took a deep breath and felt the fresh air, as if the whole world had become beautiful. The sun shone warmly on him, making him feel extremely comfortable. At this moment, he was full of confidence and expectation. Soul Society's Innocent Blue. Lin Yu hummed a tune and walked towards the 8th team. Chun Shui had invited him for a drink. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.